Why, hello there, everybody. It's Wes, Andy, and Hank, and we are back for arguably the wildest ride of the last 9 weeks. It is FANdor. It is our it's the 12th the 12th episode. 9 weeks, 12 episodes. We are your hosts once again. Thank you for coming back. I just want to run just a quick little update here. Last week we talked about potentially asking for your help to get us over the 100 subscriber mark. Guys, the support was overwhelming. We blew that away in the first, less than 24 hours.
So tier 1 is unlocked.
We did it. So
Crazy.
Someone's getting the clone trooper. So this is where I got to tell you, we got a long way to go before the 31st of December. So it is officially the drive to 200 because we want to give away that General Grievous action figure. Oh, you've got him right there. Let me take that out here. Let me throw you up here solo, Hank. People can get a good look at that.
Ooh,
there he is.
That's a
General
beauty.
Grievous.
That is a beauty.
We want to give that away to one lucky follower of the channel, but you've got to go over and subscribe to the channel. You must head over to the 100 subscriber video, which is there. I've linked it in the description of this live stream, so you'll be able to find it no trouble at all. Leave a comment on that video, and that's it. You're in.
It's also got to remind everybody it's open to all our old subscribers too.
Of course
So
it is. Of
you've
course it is.
You've already completed the big part of the equation. All you got to do is go there, like it, drop a comment.
Yeah.
And you're in.
You're in.
You are in. Yeah. So very, very exciting times. Andy, you just looked. We were at 88 last week. What's the sub count right now?
A couple minutes ago, we were at 116.
116.
But it has since bumped to 117.
Okay. Well, somebody just got on board. So
thank you.
Thank you for that. Also,
thanks,
I did notice, when you're a young, and I mean young YouTube channel in the sense that we are small, you get your friends and your family and they all message you and they go, "Hey, I did it for you." And you thank them very much. That happened an awful lot in the last week, at least through my circle of friends, where I got, I got a few messages. I thought I already did. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you did now." So thank you for that. As I always say, it costs nothing. It's absolutely free. Even if you don't watch our videos,
Yeah.
the subscriber count helps. It helps.
Just give me your passwords. I'll do it for you.
One more update. Andy, I'm going to let you take this one because this came as a shock to me.
It was a shock to me too. Apparently we've got some great fans out there, like we didn't know, but one of them in particular, Mike Murphy, sent in this for us. It is a Chia Pet the Child.
The child a pet.
The child
That's
pet.
awesome.
So we can grow a Grogu.
Listen, I don't know. It's pretty dark in here, and I tend to when I'm working throughout the week putting shows together, I kind of keep it dark. So I don't know if that's going to grow in this room. But Mike, one of us
We'll grow
one
it.
of us will grow it. We will take pictures and we will provide updates on the Fandom Power child a pet.
Nice.
Because he is now officially part of the family, and we love him. So thank you.
Grow goo.
We are going to grow
For
goo.
a growing channel.
All right, guys. It's that time once again. You know what time it is. It's time for. Oh, maybe I should turn the volume up on that. Wait a second here now.
Maybe.
Wait a minute now. Let's try that again.
How about now?
Redo. Once again, it's time for that bad Star Wars jokes. This week's bad Star Wars joke comes from me. I didn't write this one, but I laugh at this every time I read it. And now I'd like to read it to you guys. Hey guys, why did the stormtrooper buy an iPhone?
Don't know. Apple loyalty?
Because he couldn't find the droid he was looking for.
Oh yeah. Oh, wicked.
That might be the best one yet.
I'm a droid guy myself.
Android here. We run everything on a Mac, but yeah, I'm more or less an Android guy.
I'm the weirdo.
Well, but we knew that already.
Odd man out. Yeah.
Again, guys, if you have a bad Star Wars joke, please send it along. You can put it in the comments here. We won't flash it up on screen. We'll save it for a future installment. You can email the channel at FandomPower3. That's FandomPower number 3 at gmail.com. Or you can hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search the Fandom Power and the Fandom Power podcast. This has been another installment of
Bad Star Wars Jokes.
All right, guys. This one, episode 12, Rick's Road. We always start it with general impressions. And I think let's just keep it to general impressions of the episode, and then we can talk about the series as a whole when we get to the end, because I know if you guys are like me, my head is all over the place with what I just watched and what I want to watch again.
Yep.
What did we think of this episode of Rick's Road?
Do it.
Me? Okay. A lot of strings got pulled together.
You think so?
A whole lot of strings got
Okay,
pulled together.
okay.
But there's still more left hanging. So season 2 is like not going to be forced.
No.
It's going to evolve out of this naturally. And if they keep going on this trajectory, I'm all for it.
I agree with you. For me, I don't know. Were you done?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. For me, guys, if fans of our show of Fandom Power in general, especially our Star Wars review series, you may recall the amount of excitement. I was a champion of this show when it was announced right from the get-go. I mean, this show was made for me. And now looking back at it, 12 episodes later, 9 weeks later, thoroughly impressed. Like, this was announced back at the 2020 Disney Investors Day. So this has been 2 years in the making. I was so excited about it. But honestly, I can't tell you. Let me put it to you this way. No other live action finale did I get up for at 3 a.m. When it drops for us here in the eastern part of the country.
Yeah.
And I did for Andor.
I definitely know that kind of loyalty, because I do that. I do that almost all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, it's become like more normal for me to do it there than not. But then it's weird because I experience it different than sometimes when you guys watch it for the first time on a big screen.
Oh,
sure. I'm in the bathroom on my phone or something like that.
Oh, right.
Watched a few with no sound under different circumstances. But, this thing, so you worry, right? You worry that you're going to get disappointed, or are they biting off more than they can chew? We've only got, like, say, an hour left, and there's so many parts in play, and I couldn't be more satisfied. Like, it was perfect. It was a perfect end.
I think I asked that hypothetical last week about how many of the dangling plot threads did we think were going to get tied off, and Andy, you felt like there was a lot of resolution there.
Yeah.
And I would say the opposite. I felt like there was very little resolution. I felt like a lot of the questions I had were not answered. Like, we never got anything more on Cassian's sister. That's okay. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's all there needs to be. I thought that was a holdover for something bigger. What's the deal with the Republic impersonating the Confederacy? We never got a follow up on that. That all could come back. You have to wonder, they wrote it for the long game. They wrote it for at least 2 seasons. Season 2 is about to start filming here very shortly.
Yeah.
How much of that of season 1 was written with season 2 in mind?
I have to think they were planting seeds right from the get.
Absolutely. So yeah, I feel like there was not a ton of resolution, but you follow the news this week, and a lot of the praise that's being leveled at the show, particularly the last episode, about how the final or the finale encapsulates everything that is good about the series.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, I agree with that. Yeah. Oh, look at that. I have a huge hole in my notes that I forgot to fill in. I did not. Who was our director this week?
It's a good question.
Was it Tony? Was it Tony who directed this week's episode? Normally I'm on top of this. I don't know what happened there. You want to pull that up for me, Andy?
Yeah.
Writer and director for this week's episode, and then we can get right into the breakdown.
Normally,
this is what happens when you like your opening crawl is a cut and paste from week to week, and you forget a small detail. Listen, while Andy's looking that up, I'm going to go right into it here. It is Andor episode 12. It's called Rick's Road. This one aired on November 23rd in 2022 on Disney Plus. The runtime this week, it's an advertised 57 minutes, so it's up there with the longest running episode, or it's 47 minutes and 18 seconds without your titles or credits. But wait, there's more. There is a 33-second post-credit scene this week, bringing the total length of the episode up to 47 minutes and 51 seconds. And as we talked, Hank, you mentioned it last week, not really a spoiler, but somebody in the media had leaked the entirety of the episode, right?
Yeah.
Even if you didn't know that, you should have been triggered this week when you were watching the episode, because if you got to the credits, you would have noticed that the credits did not minimize into the corner like they would for the next episode. They just stayed full screen. So that should have triggered you that there was something there. If you didn't know that there was a post-credit scene, pause our show, go watch it, and then come back and get us in the replay.
Yeah.
Or just watch us at the same time.
Because it provides a resolution to a question.
Absolutely, it does. What do you got for me?
Our director this week was Benjamin Caron.
Oh, right, because he did he was doing the last two.
Yeah, and our writer again is Tony Gilroy.
Okay. I probably could have guessed that, but
better to be safe than sorry.
Right. Let's get back into what's going on here. Okay. Wow. Sure. What am I talking about here? Oh, right. If you were like most people who are watching television in the streaming age, you probably got your hand on the remote, and when the show starts, you're like, click, skip, get to the thing. And it's something that we haven't talked a whole lot about over the course of the 12 weeks. In fact, it's something that we normally talk a whole lot about, is the show's music. This week, the show's music plays a pivotal role. And just in case you missed it, there is a slight differentiation to the theme song practically every week. And this week is no different. In fact, this week it is the most stripped back. Almost sounds like a band on the warm-up.
Like a marching band.
Maybe. Yeah. Definitely brassy anyway. Don't want to jump too far ahead on that. That is going to come back later on in the episode, and we'll talk about that when it comes up organically. But that's an important detail going into this.
That they planted.
Yeah. All right. Our episode opens in the night. Oh my Lord. What are we talking about here? That's not true. It opens in Sam and Pax's workshop, where Willman is soldering a circuit board, and he is intensely focused while he's working. Now, outside in the night sky of Ferrix, a Lambda-class shuttle pulls in, landing beside a Zeta-class heavy cargo shuttle. Well, the boarding ramp drops, and Dedra Miro steps out into the night air, flanked by two Imperial Death Troopers, and they make their way towards the makeshift Imperial headquarters over at the Ferrix Hotel.
I love it. She gets her Vader moment.
Yeah,
coming down the ramp.
Yeah,
the gas is off gassing, flanked by troopers, flanked by death troopers because she's dressed in white. Like it's that's a deadly scene.
We've talked about. Remember, we did our evolution of the shuttle video.
Yep.
And so the Lambda serves as a multiple roles, but one of them is executive shuttle.
Yeah.
And this qualifies as one of its roles as an executive transport.
It's just the language. It's spot on. They're doing so many great things with cinematography here.
This episode is fantastic for small details, especially when I was going back and looking for details in previous episodes that tied back to this one. Didn't realize how much of the city of Ferrix itself got CG'd, and not just like, like in like the Hanna-Barbera, like it was like someone's pulling a string and the thing's looping around and around. And no, it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
Pull back.
Going back to episode 1, episode, I think 3, when Luthen's coming in on the speeder bus and they do the pass over the city, you can clearly make out the hotel. Before we knew what the hotel was, but now that we're this far ahead, oh crap, that's the hotel.
Yep.
So well done.
The one thing I would like to see, though, is like this image of her contrasted against the first one we got of her back in episode 1.
Oh yeah.
Or like back then we were like
We were cheering for
We were
her.
cheering
Oh,
for
I
her.
know.
and now it's like, whoa.
We were so in her corner. It turns out that was a bad idea.
Oops.
Yeah.
Small detail here that's they land beside a Zeta class shuttle. Now, casual fans may not know this, but the Zeta class shuttle actually made its first on-screen appearance in Star Wars Battlefront. That's the video game from Electronic Arts back in December of 2016, which means it predates its first on-screen appearance in Rogue One by just 10 days. So yeah, first appearance in Battlefront. Well, inside her cell, Bix sits on the mattress in the center of the room while the overhead camera pivots to focus on her. Out in the hall, Dedra operates the controls as she observes her prisoner. Well, just then, Captain Tigo arrives and is somewhat surprised that Dedra is there. He tells her that she's just in time for dinner, but Dedra isn't interested in eating. She wants to change out of her uniform and take a walk around town. Pardon me.
Security cameras are they're portable, like the Death Star cameras.
The exact
That's their
same model.
camera.
Yeah.
But they just screwed it to the wall and it
That's
works.
right.
That's some heavy tech.
When Captain Tigo offers to arrange an escort for her, she declines, opting instead to have attendant Corv show her around so as not to draw any attention. Well, meanwhile, back at Repack, by the way, did we know that Repack? Did we get the name of the shop? I think that's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Their last name, so Salman and Willman, their last name is Pack, P-A-A-K. The name of the shop is Repack, and they sell salvage parts. Repack, very, very clever. Back at Repack, Willman works away at a device on the bench in front of him, while just off to the side, there's a hollow image of his now deceased father, Salman, flickering in the low light. Nothing like a little revenge fuel to keep you going in the middle of the night. While outside the Grapplers Hall, a meeting has just broken up and the workers disperse into the night. Just a few meters away, Zanwan leans against a wall, waiting to intercept Brasso. While not wasting any time, he tells Brasso that Cassian called the shop last night on what he describes as the old box line. Naturally, Brasso is shocked and he says to Zahn, "Where is he?" Of course, Zanwan doesn't know. And then Brasso asks if Cassian knows about Marva, and Zan tells him, well, he does now. He says it was a short conversation and that Cassian had asked about the funeral. Brasso urges them to keep walking as he and Zan, he and Zan know about Cassian's, Brasso asks how many people know about Cassian's phone call, and Zan tells him no one. Wow, I chewed on that one about 4 different ways before I spit that one out.
Hey.
Right. So no one. At the same time, Nurchi, who has been standing inside open repair bay, takes notice of the two men, and he follows them with his gaze as they walk past.
There is a lot of people watching from shadowy corners.
Absolutely. Well, you can see him standing in the shop there. The other question I had around the shop there is that white and yellow vehicle that they're working on. They walk past it and it looks like it's got 2 tail fins. I'm like, is that some kind of speeder? I could not get a clear enough shot to make out what it was. So if you guys know what it is that they're working on back there, I would love to know. It reminded me of like one of the racing speeders out of the old Droids cartoon, but I didn't want to go that far and say that's what it is, because it's just not, it's too ambiguous.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, Brasso tells Zan to keep it that way, noting that the Empire is watching Marva's place and they could be anywhere. Zanwan says it would be insane for Cassian to come back now. Meanwhile, Corv, now back in his disguise, shows Dedra, who's now also in disguise, around the streets of Ferrix. Unbeknownst to both of them, Cinta is tailing them. And there's one small question answered. Last week I said, that they are
one up on who?
They are literally 2 sides of the same coin, and the question is who's got the leg up on the other? Well, we now know who that is. Good girl.
One thing I did want to point out here, and I don't know why we didn't point it out before.
Yep.
But Corv's hat is very imperial looking.
Like even
you
for
had
just
said
a
that,
hat, yeah.
But like it matches up to what Dedra was wearing on her way in.
Yeah.
We do
So-
see that as a prevailing style throughout the series. Even the Pre-More security caps were short peak,
Similar
yeah,
to-
short peak.
yeah.
And then
And,
later on,
Yeah, we get a cap swap.
yeah,
Yeah.
a weird cap
I gotta
swap
say,
if you ask me. But
Dedra looks a lot like rocking like an Asajj Ventress look here with the hood and the high neck.
the her chiseled, her
Looks sort of that-
jawline.
That yeah,
You know
that
what?
dark
You-
red, the blood red.
You know what it reminded me of? It
Hmm.
reminded me of Clea's outfit when she met Vel in
Yeah.
on Coruscant. Yeah.
Oh, got our first comment.
First comment coming in from Sean. Sean says, "I think it's a pod racer of some kind." That's entirely possible.
Could be with them salvaging stuff.
I'm
Why not?
surprised that we haven't gone back to pod racing in the last 20 odd years.
Well, after the
They have it on
Empire took
Malice
over.
Exactly. There's only one human that ever did it. All right. Okay, moving on. What do we got here now? Back at Repack, the Repack salvage shop, Willman carefully inserts a cylindrical rod into the device that he's been working on, and he twists it into place. Whatever it is he's building, his focus is all-consuming. At an outdoor cafe, Nurchi and Zanwan are sitting at a table having a drink together. While Nurchi laments that Cassian's absence for Marva's death and having Brasso place her stone is heartbreaking, he says, "You've got to feel for Cassian. I'd be losing my mind," before asking if Zanwan wants another drink. With a bit of a slur, Zanwan replies, "Maybe just one." And Nurchi takes the cup from his hand as he grins and says, "Why worry about it, though? It's not like he knows about it," adding, "I guarantee you he has no idea what's going on. You can bank on that." And then he gets up from the table. Stupidly, Zan blurts out, "I wouldn't be so sure." Nurchi, now staring down at Zan, sternly remarks, "If you know something that I don't, keep it that way," before walking to the bar and ordering another round.
He already
Zan-
knows.
Oh, yeah.
Played him like a fiddle.
Zan pinches his lip absent-mindedly, not noticing that Nurchi has looked over his shoulder at him and then turns back toward the bar with a sinister smile on his face. I'm actually inclined to call it a greasy smile. This is kind of a bit of a stretch, but there's another fishing analogy here, fishing for information, which I thought was interesting. All right. Meanwhile, Willman connects a loose wire to the device that he's been working on. And with the wire securely connected, he looks over at the hollow image of his father before twisting a dial on the device, and red indicator lights come on. If there was any doubt before, it is clear that Willman has made a bomb. On Coruscant, Mon Mothma and Perrin are leaving yet another party. Mon is seated in the back seat of her limo, and she unclasps her overcoat and throws her head back with a sigh. Then Perrin climbs into the speeder, still with a drink in hand, and he says, "I thought you'd left without me." And she says that she had thought about it before asking the driver, Cloris, for some privacy. As he pulls away, Cloris activates the privacy screen while Perrin asks, "What now?" Turning and looking at her husband sternly, Mon accuses Perrin of gambling, and she says gambling again, like it's been a problem in the past. Perrin immediately denies her accusation, calling it nonsense, but Mon won't have it. She scolds him for doing it here on Coruscant and asks if he has any idea how tired of it she really is. Up front, Cloris eavesdrops by activating a listening device while he drives. Perrin calls Mon's accusations a total fantasy, and he wants to know who's telling her this. Mon dismisses him, but he insists, and with what seems like genuine sincerity at that. And for the second time, I feel sorry for Perrin.
Did you get it right away? Did you know that she was playing him right away? Like there's a scene later that explains
sure
it
I did.
outright, but
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that in a minute.
It's true. Like I think like she's fully embracing her role. Like,
Yeah.
She's
knows they're
committed.
listening.
Well,
I said
absolutely.
last week when she was talking to Vel that a lot of the players have sort of talked about sacrifice and what they've given up for this rebellion. And I had said that Mon was building her sacrifice resume.
Mm-hmm.
She just put another entry in it.
Yeah, this is kind of a big one.
Yeah.
And also there's another resolution, if you will. We always knew that Clovis was a spy, but now confirmed.
Oh, for sure. Now that we've got it. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, ready to prove his innocence, Perrin tells his wife that he'll turn the car around and they can go back to the party to confront whoever it is that put the idea in her head. And if Mon asserts, we will not. I've been shamed enough for one night. Continuing, she tells Perrin that if he can't live without a casino, that's fine. He can go to Canto Bight and do whatever it is that he feels that he needs to do, but not here, adding that he promised. Well, Perrin shouts, I've kept my promise. And Mon scolds him like a child, telling him to keep his voice down. And as the Cameron looks back at Perrin from over Cloris's shoulder, Perrin asserts that, Cloris can't hear them, but indeed he can. Perrin says, this is wrong, Mon, adding that it's people trying to take her down by coming at him. He says, you tell me who's saying this and I'll tell you why, adding, where would I get the money? And Mon says, that's the question that scares me the most. When Perrin tells her that someone is lying to her, Mon shoots back, on that we can agree.
Mm-hmm.
A comment coming in from Facebook tonight says, the ultimate sacrifice, a piece of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's very Luthen-like in that sense, that whole only Luthen, announced it.
Yeah.
All right. So Perrin has no idea that Mon just used his old gambling habit to cover for the missing 400,000 credits.
Mm-hmm.
That is one layer of that onion.
Yep.
Did you guys consider the other implication here?
Maybe.
By saying that in front of Cloris, any suspicion that was leveled at Mon with regards to any of her extra political activities are now leveled at him as well.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is it a cover for the money, it could be a cover for all of her machinations for the nascent Rebel Alliance.
Oh no, yeah, that she rolled the bus over him and backed up a few
Big
times.
time.
Yeah, 100%. Super crafty too, because we don't. That's the first time she's cut a throat, if you will, and
absolutely.
Let's be frank. She's definitely. There's going to be repercussions to that. She's shone a spotlight on him.
Seeing Perrin like this, and we've gone back and I personally have gone back and forth with him. We've talked about Perrin quite a bit. The loveless marriage,
the company he keeps.
Sure, that he's a Coruscanti socialite. He's connected to the inner political circle. Seeing him like this in the backseat of the car, I'm kind of like, well, the dude's definitely got some character flaws, but he didn't deserve this. You know what I mean? I'm curious to see how this plays out in the next season, to see what is in store for Perrin. Is it just a loveless marriage that's going to end because of this, or is it going to
take
the
ultimate fall for
it? Right.
She doesn't do it completely coldly. I mean, she's at war with herself here in the opening of the scene.
Yeah, the whole.
That's you got to wonder how far had he fallen and how far has he climbed back up since whatever he did.
She's already implied in previous episodes that she wasn't for arranged marriage, that it is essentially a loveless marriage. At the same time, they had children together.
Yeah.
So there had to be something there at some point, presumably. Anyway. All right. Well, over on Ferrix, Vel stands in Cinta's apartment, waiting for Cinta to come home. And when Cinta bursts into the room, she rushes right past Vel without so much as a greeting, not even a hello. She peers into a camera that's set up at the window and she says, "You're here. I couldn't remember if I'd locked the door or if you'd even remember how to get here." Gritting her teeth, Vel remarks, "And here I am." Cinta says that she was on her way to pick her up, but she's been watching an ISB agent and his boss just showed up tonight.
And again, she's using those repurposed projector binoculars.
Oh, yeah. The camera
one, yeah.
The camera one, yeah. Well, disheartened, Vel nods her head as she remarks, "Good to see you too." Cinta flashes a glare back at her before looking through a macro binocular and telling her that an ISB supervisor has come in tonight. It's a woman, and she's here now. Cinta had good intentions to meet Vel, but with two ISB agents walking the streets of Ferrix, she had to follow. Remember that there was that scene with Vel and Mon Mothma where Vel parrots Cinta's words, "The cause comes first, and we get whatever's left." I wondered if Vel was just parroting Cinta's words, or if she had
100%.
the conviction behind it. Turns out, no, she didn't.
No, and
She's still like, "Ugh."
I get the distinct feeling that, at least as far as Cinta goes, that thing is done. Like
Their relationship.
she can't look her in the eye. She's
Oh,
just like,
yeah, that's true.
you know, like even further on in the scene, like, and then there's another scene where they're together, and she is acting like the disinterested, you know, half of the, you know, those kind of relationships where when one person is just sort of given up, or is so obsessed about something else that they can't be involved. It's like, maybe it's like Reed Richards syndrome.
I
But
wondered.
she's super distant at the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yes, I do. I do. I totally
very,
do.
very distant. Like,
I feel
yeah.
like this is early on. We don't get a sense of like how recent is it in her lifetime that her parents were killed, that her family was killed. We know that they were killed by the Empire, and that is sort of her
priority number one.
It's her motivation, right? We don't know how separated she is from that. I wonder if this is early on, and maybe they're playing it for, you know, how far down do you have to go? How disconnected do you have to get before you realize that you just your soul is empty? And Vel is that connect with me.
And I'm in that camp that she killed that Imperial family too. So I mean, she's got some demons for sure. And that's a hard thing to process through a relationship.
For sure it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Cinta asserts that the Empire is preparing for something, and they must know that Andor is coming. Softening her countenance, Vel tells Cinta that she did the right thing, and Cinta asserts that they have to get there first. And Vel remarks, "I know," before telling Cinta to come away from the window, still trying to connect with her.
Mm-hmm.
Facing Vel, Cinta sees the yearning and vulnerability in her eyes, and her expression softens a bit to match. If there's one thing that's true in any galaxy, it is the need for people to feel connected. Elsewhere on the streets of Ferrix that same night, Cassian clings to a wall. Now, surveying his surroundings, he decides that the coast is clear, and he heads up a flight of steps past an old astromech droid, and he stops and places his hand on a brick with an inscription on it. As Cassian stands there with his hand on the brick, we can hear the voice of Clem Andor. "Here's the thing, Cassian. The man who sees everything is more blessed than cursed." The droid, it's a Hulk. It's a hulking shell. Looks like an R4 maybe, because the head is a little bit too squat to be anything else, and too angular to be an R5 or an R6. So who knows? Maybe it's an R4. Maybe it's a completely new droid model that we don't know. But
yeah.
Now, this is another thing. I talked to you guys about this, and now I just want to address our audience. We try really, really hard to translate the language that we see week in and week out. This is kind of stumping.
Yeah.
This one is a bit of a stump. We know that it says Clem Andor in some way, shape, or form, but
you know what? I am kicking myself right now.
Why?
Because back in the first Aldani episode, when they hand him that sheet of Aldani phrases.
Oh, you think that was in that script?
It introduced us to a new
new language. Never thought.
I didn't even think to check.
Never even thought to go back to that one. That's a very good. We'll have to. We'll do a follow-up.
This is on Ferrix, right? So
that's true.
It might not apply, but
could be a local dialect, right?
Could be.
Yeah. Basic being both a spoken and a written language. I mean, for sure, there's going to be dialects for sure.
But yeah, I would double down saying that it says Clem Andor. Just because
I would say so too, for sure.
What we know about the funeral.
Well, flashing back to Cassian's teenage years, Clem tells his son, "Look at that. Here we go," as he removes an engine component from an acid bath. Staring at the part, Clem says, "Hard to believe, right? 2 minutes, no longer, no shorter," as he holds the piece up for young Cassian to look at. Rhetorically, Clem asks Cassian if he knows why this particular piece isn't made anymore. "It's because they'd rather sell you a brand new system at 10 times the price." Well, then, grabbing another one of the dirty used components, he remarks that they have like 60 or 70 of them laying around, and that each of those equates to 500 credits, adding that people don't look down to where they should. They don't look past the rust, but not us. Eyes open, possibilities everywhere. Jokingly, he says they just need to get it cleaned up before Marva finds them doing their work in the house. Then, using the tongs, he dips the component into the acid bath, and we cut back to Cassian still touching his father's Ferrix brick as tears roll down his face.
Now, the sentiment here, it echoes the one they gave us in that movie, Robots, with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
How, build well was always, recycle those parts.
Right.
But the guy that took over is like always buy the upgrade, get the new, the flashy.
Oh, right. I kind of took it as a metaphor, the whole slow down and take a look around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can keep going with what you've got if you know where to look.
Yeah, exactly. Heading down the street, Cassian stops to look around before climbing over a wall. It's the wall to Bix's yard, not Marva's house, like some other people reported this week.
No.
Jumping down, he is met by two charging Corellian hounds that hit the end of their chains before they can reach him. Cassian pulls his blaster, ready to defend himself as a voice calls out, "Who's there?" Well, then a man shines a light in Cassian's eyes, and the two recognize each other. It's Pegla from the used ship lot. The two men embrace as Pegla says, "I don't believe it." Overcome with emotion, Pegla struggles to tell Cassian how sorry he is about Marva and how much he loved her, like I'm sure a lot of people did. Cassian asks what he's doing there, and Pegla tells him that he's been keeping an eye on the place until it can be sold. And Cassian is shocked by that, and he says, "Where's Bix?" And he tries to push past Pegla. But with a hand on Cassian's chest, he stops him. And Cass asks again, "Where is she?" And Pegla looks troubled as he fumbles with what to say.
Now, do we think these Corellian hounds are of any genealogical relation to the Rancor based on their facial structure?
Maybe.
Somewhere down the line?
I mean, if we want to trace the monster lineage, then they share some lineage with the monster from Willow, the two-headed Hydra thing.
Yeah.
They all have a similar kind of design aesthetic. And the Rancor, well, I think that was another Phil Tippett design. So it makes sense. He did both of them.
Fair enough.
One is a tribute to the other, but I agree they do. They have that look with the nostril set where they are, the head shape. Well, we get a montage sequence, which is kind of interesting here. There are different locations on Ferrix, and it's at night during a thunderstorm. First, we begin with Bix, who's sitting on the mattress in her cell, shivering at the hotel headquarters. We then shift over to Luthen, who's looking at the city through macro binoculars from a faraway distance, before we finally land on Cassian, who's now sitting inside Clem and Marva's salvage hauler, and he's listening to the narration of Nemec's manifesto, which is in Nemec's own voice, which is very cool.
What's really cool about this is that they're revisiting all the scenes from the first episode. Like they're it's they're bookends.
See where they started, and
even the pacing of this part of the story is identical. The way we cut back and forth between these sort of three stories.
For those who are watching the video version of the show, took the liberty of transcribing the entire speech. So, for your pleasure, you have it in English and Aurebesh. Threw it up in Aurebesh to sort of give you the feel like how Cassian was getting it.
Mm-hmm.
There will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere, and even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. And remember this, the imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. Remember that. And know this. The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance, will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try. Interestingly enough, for those of you who may or may not watch with the subtitles, rebellion is capitalized again. So formal rebellion as a proper name. I love that distinction, by the way. Awesome speech. Love that it's in Nemec's voice. So happy that they recovered the manifesto. Still has to make its way to Mon's hands, or well, it's in Luthen's hands now. So
yeah.
I mean, it's as good as there.
But again, the one thought in there: oppression is the mask of fear.
Oh,
Power
yeah.
doesn't panic.
No, it doesn't.
Somebody else saying it in a different way.
There will be one. Where is it here? Their day will come when all the skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance, will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Alderaan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Snub. Yeah. Oh, well. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, the rebellion was a real thing by that time, but I mean, when they blew up an entire planet, isn't that when like a bunch more worlds got involved?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll
I think it was already, I mean, it was already on. That was just like the straw for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they were already making, they had gone from Scarif to the next step is we have to take it to the
right.
That's the whole point of getting it, whether the Skywalker thing occurred or not, they would have made a Death Star attempt, whether they destroyed Alderaan or not. I think they were headed for.
I mean, maybe, I mean, what Jeddah is the test fire?
Yeah.
Jeddah City. Maybe that's kind of, a polarizing moment for the galaxy at large.
Mm-hmm. They do. Tarkin says that let's disavow that. Like, let's send out information.
That's true.
It was a mining accident.
Yeah.
We don't want them to know that
we did it.
I think that the first time, and there was wasn't there another use of the Death Star too? I guess
Scarif when they took
Scarif too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that maybe the first time it was used publicly, probably Alderaan. So
Alderaan,
you might be onto something
maybe Alderaan, yeah.
Going further, that was maybe the Empire's announcement.
Oh yeah, really.
Well, definitely an answer to a growing rebellion.
Yeah. Well, over at the Imperial headquarters, sometime the next day, Captain Tigo gives Dedra an update on the situation surrounding Marva's funeral. Standing over a holo table, he tells her that air traffic has been loosened, uniform patrols have been pulled back, and the curfew has been relaxed. He says that the trap is baited and they've opened the door. He also says that they have recon units prepared and positioned, and acknowledges that Dedra also has her own resources, particularly Corv and the Death Troopers. Mm-hmm. Well, she asks Tigo what time the funeral is, and he tells her that it was requested for midday, but he's pushed it back by 2 hours, noting that the townspeople tend to slow down after lunch. That's a direct quote, by the way. Like, talk about stereotyping. They get lazy after lunch. Sounds like some jobs that I've been in.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the day's dragging on.
That's true. Yeah. Cut to the balcony of the control room, and Dedra and Corv overlook the city center as Lieutenant Keysax points out that the funeral area down the street at the tower junction, and he calls it the box. Captain Tigo says they limited the gathering to just 30 people, but when the daughters of Ferrix pushed back, they upped it to 40. Dedra asks the daughters, "What's that?" And Corv tells her that it's a social club that Cassian's mother had been a past president of. Tigo calls them an annoyance, while Keysax points out various control positions on the street, as well as intended positions for a containment unit and snipers. Well, Dedra agrees with the containment unit, but she orders the snipers be stood down because she wants Cassian brought in alive. And she emphasizes that she wants that information disseminated clearly amongst the ranks, and then steps off the balcony back into the building. I had to watch it a couple times because it's such a quick thing, but look at the look that Tigo gives Keysax when she leaves. He is so like not impressed to have his order countermanded.
Yeah. And by a woman, no less.
Well, there is that. Okay. Down at street level, an Imperial speeder fitted with a heavy blaster cannon and manned by 2 stormtroopers and an army trooper moves down Rick's Road. excuse me, it's an oppressive sight to the civilian population, but everyone does their best to go about their business, including Vel, who's now dressed in a low-key outfit complete with a cap that fits the local style. Like all the other vehicles we've seen recently and all the way back to 77, speeders tend to be real world vehicles with shells on them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is some kind of Land Rover-ish vehicle.
Mm.
Like the fact that it's got a droid kind of secondary
Droid
there.
assist.
Yeah. With what looks like some kind of smaller blaster on top. Not really sure what it is, but it's a pretty cool design.
Yeah, maybe it's like the heavy duty brother of the stretcher over on.
Oh, maybe the head looks the same
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
right.
Or like a
Looks like-
squat BB head.
Yeah.
Looks like an E-web on the back too.
Well, it does, but it looks to me, you know what it looks like? It looks like a 50 cal that's got
Yeah,
some.
it
That's
looks
what-
like a straight up 50 cal.
That's
right?
what I thought. I'm like, oh, the 50 cal blaster, which by the way we get to see in action a little bit later too. And I made sure to include images for that because there's an interesting point about that. Well, now back at the central office on Coruscant, Cloris, the limo driver, meets with Supervisor Blevin, who has been glaringly absent for the last several episodes.
Been usurped.
Blevin recounts Mon Mothma's words about Perrin's supposed gambling habits, and Cloris says that's it, word for word. Well, Blevin asks if Mon Mothma, was more worried about him lying to her or the possibility of gambling debts. Cloris says it's hard to say. And Blevin asserts that Mon Mothma is of great interest here and that Perrin digging a hole for himself could be helpful in many ways. Many ways.
Mm-hmm.
In the background, we actually hear clapping erupt while Cloris tells Blevin that it sounded to him like Perrin had done this before. Blevin says that they've made some odd banking moves recently. And Perrin's resurgent gambling habit would explain that. So, those audits that Mon had talked about that take Holma
Already happened.
I guess they've,
Or-
unless the ISB has dug in on their own,
Yeah.
which I'm sure they have,
Yeah.
Mhm.
can we assume that these banking audits have started?
Yes.
Yeah,
I would say
I would
so.
assume so.
I would say so.
Like I was saying on one of the previous episodes, I don't think there's a distinction like before in the Republic era with the banking clan.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a distinction anymore. I think that's just a bureau of the Empire.
Oh,
The
yeah.
same way that
Yeah,
like Cyril's a bean counter, but I think that's a lesser. that's just a lesser
Yeah,
arm
yeah,
of
yeah.
the Empire.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
same way Primor, even the Primor are sort of an offshoot, like an appendage, if you will. And as soon as they amputate it if it becomes useless.
Facebook comment viewer asks, was Mon wise to the rat? Mon being wise to the rat as in like Cloris, the limo driver?
Yes.
If that's what we're saying, then the answer is, oh, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
she told Luthen,
Yeah,
my
right,
driver
in that first
yeah.
meeting,
is an ISB
She-
plant.
They just
Her
changed
fur
it
was
back
up for
again.
sure.
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole time.
Yeah. I would say that, yeah, resoundingly, yes. Specifically why she chose in the car to set Perrin up, knowing that information was going to get back to
Right.
them somehow. And of course, it makes perfect sense that Cloris is reporting directly to Blevin.
Yeah.
He was such the rivalry was so palpable between him and Dedra. It didn't make sense for him to just disappear.
No.
You know, I get it. He's upset. He just had an entire sector taken away from him, but
Now he needs to deliver something to get back in the good graces.
absolutely.
And
So,
the sign reminds me of the inverse happening with Lonnie
Yeah.
and Luthen.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I worry about that loose end not have, we don't see him in the episode at all. And that worries me
No.
because I'm sure that Dedra knows.
we do
what's up
see
here.
we do see Lonnie.
Do we in the
Yep,
the group?
we're about to see him in the next few
Well, then
seconds.
I feel a little better then.
Yeah, he's made it thus far. But going back to Blevin, I mean, there's a season 2, like
Yeah.
the rivalry will continue, and that's going to be an interesting. See how that plays out. Will it mirror the Cinta Corv thing?
Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know.
Is Blevin the reason why that stuff happens that forces her to leave the Senate?
Oh, I don't know.
Like,
Maybe.
is he the one that kicks that whole thing off?
Maybe.
We'll see.
Blevin, sorry, what am I saying here? Just then, I need to go back. So just then, Supervisor Legret strolls past and stops to tell Blevin that he's missing the update on Anto Krieger's failed assault on Spellhouse. Blevin sternly tells Cloris to keep listening, and then he heads off to the meeting room. This is where we see Lonnie. Blevin rushes into the meeting room where he's met by Legret and Young. Legret tells him emphatically that he can close his Anto Krieger file, and Blevin asks how many attacked, and Lonnie Young says they're still counting the bodies. Legret adds that they walked right into it, and it was over before they started. So, no Anto Krieger for us.
No.
But it was a fun exercise to try and gas the guy.
It was.
Blevin asks if there are any prisoners, and Young casually remarks, not today. While Legret tells Blevin, guess who wasn't happy about that, adding that she called in and Major Partagaz has been talking her down, which I found to be an interesting perspective. True, though.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. This actually reminded me of that thing we talked about where, remember I had suggested early on that like Dedra embarrassing Partagaz in front of the rest of the supervisors could work for him later on. Like, oh, she's doing a good job, which means I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
Right.
So now all this stuff got set up that he can go, look what I did. And now he's just kept her out of the loop. Look what I did.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case here, but it could easily be
It
spun
wouldn't
that way.
shock me.
Yeah. Cutting to the other side of the room, we see Major Partagaz, who's taking a video call from Dedra Miro. She laments that she wasn't part of the conversation surrounding the assault on Spellhouse. And the Major tells her it wasn't a dialogue. Dedra asserts they get nothing from a dead body, and someone needs to be in the room saying that. But the Major tells her that she's missing the point. He says that the actions at Spellhouse were about wiping the taste of Aldani from the Emperor's mouth. He concludes by telling her that if she wants to start a conversation, find Axis. When the comm channel closes, Dedra walks over to a window, and looking outside, she heaves a calculating sigh. She's clearly not happy about being excluded from the plan. Andy, this one was yours, my friend. You'd predicted this.
That it was their
The Empire just wants to swing a bigger stick.
yeah, their response as
it
was.
Yeah. This is our you do Aldani, we'll do this.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
This is the first time we get like a video chat.
Video calls?
Isn't it like a
Maybe.
Everything's a hologram.
Yeah, this is like
Typically.
actual like tube TV
like-
thing. The phone
It's
call,
better
I
tech.
guess.
It's like it looks like you can see it's full color.
Yeah.
You know the you assume
There's
that the
a
hologram
a
tech is
video
like
phone at
old-fashioned.
Edie's apartment.
Yeah, where we get
That's right.
Mosk and his
Well,
phone call.
but that was sort of like a doorbell, I thought, though. Oh no, you're right.
was-
You're
yeah, it
right,
was a
because
phone
that is a
call.
call.
at
Yeah.
the,
Yeah, that's
factory.
true. That's very true.
I do
Maybe
like
it's
the mix
older tech.
though. I like that mix of older, newer, just maybe it's like, what can you afford?
Mhm.
Right. The Emperor can afford a hologram,
Of course he can.
but not a couple monitors.
No.
Someone plug that thermal porthole.
Little bit of Orabesh this week on the big screen there, and it looks like possible like locations where battles have taken place, but it says Imperial Saturation.
So here's where all the troops were.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, in a hidden valley on Ferrix. By the way, I went back and I went through this quite a few times. It is the exact same parking spot as the first time he came to Ferrix. In a hidden valley on Ferrix, Luthen steps off his FANdor hullcraft to a waiting speeder bike while the ship reconfigures itself into a smaller profile. Pulling his hood up, he twists the throttle and races off towards the city. Did I send this one over to you guys earlier this week?
Possibly. Yeah.
I did a little Starship study. I know that this is not the focus of this week's episode. It probably was better off last week, but I was watching, believe it or not, I was a big fan of Adam Savage, former Mythbuster.
Yes.
His tested YouTube channel, and he was looking at maquettes of the Tauntaun, including some other designs that Phil Tippett had done. And he was talking about how a good artist whether they're a model maker like he was, or somebody like Phil Tippett who did stop motion. A good model maker will not only conceive of the look of the thing that they are building, they will conceive of the function. So why is one eye sticking out more than the other? Why, like that kind of stuff. So that everything has a real world in universe context and doesn't just look cool.
Yeah.
Although in this case, it does look cool. And that led me to thinking, we've seen the FANdor parked before.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen it parked in different ways. Like in this case, you can't really see it here because I couldn't capture it very well. The wings in this case fold right over top. They don't just kind of stick out. They're like right over top.
Kind of like the Batmobile shell.
Right. Well, in our last episode, the descriptive audio talked about when they folded up, that they folded out like a shield.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me wondering about the real world function of these wings. What else do they do? We know that they house at least an engine in each one.
Yeah.
We know that the end of the wing strut is where the laser weapon is. But I had this idea. Now we've seen it. So there it is. I went back, and that's how I knew we're in the same valley. Because look at episode 3. The wings, they're folded right on top.
Yeah.
Which is different than episode 4, Aldani, where they're left kind of hanging out. And then here on Rick's Road, they're folded right on top again. So we never get a really, really good look at the ship itself, but we do get a pretty awesome wireframe diagram. And so I kind of put this together to give an idea of what it might look like with the wings folded up right on top. And so I want to propose, this is just me going off the rails because you know how much I love ships and stuff. Do the wings have some anti-radar, anti-sensor property that when the ship is parked, like you cover the top of the ship and now it can't be detected from above?
Well, it definitely changes the look of it.
Certainly
so if you're
changes the
looking
profile.
For a wider ship.
Yeah.
You look at that and say, no, that ain't it.
Yeah, it physically looks different.
Yeah.
But the radar signature, smaller.
True. But with the onboard navigation AI that he's got.
The droid mod.
Yeah. You'd think it was constantly running something.
I just wonder why.
There is cloaking tech that exists, but it's
well,
crazy
right.
rare, right.
Well, he even said, look at what he says in this episode, prepare for evac, full stealth.
Yeah.
Full stealth. What?
Yeah.
We didn't get to see what that looks like, but as you say, the tech is out there.
Yeah.
I just wondered if maybe this is one of those things where Luthen sets the wing profile based on the perceived threat of wherever he's going, which doesn't make sense. And we're going to go to Aldani. There's a whole garrison there, but just leave the wings open.
Yeah, but at the same time on Aldani, he wasn't there for a long time. He was just there to
That's
drop
true.
and go.
He never left the ship.
No.
That's a good point.
Whereas here,
I
he's
appreciate
leaving the
that.
ship.
Yes, he's leaving.
He's going away for who knows how long.
Lock the doors.
Yeah.
And don't leave any change in the cup holder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. So that was just a fun little exercise in like, hey, I wonder what this does.
And maybe in that configuration, they reflect some sort of signal. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, back in town, Corv strides across the rooftop of the cafe across the street from Marva's house, sipping on a calf. Looking over the edge at Marva's front door, he sees a grappler exit the building with B2EMO. Getting a good look at the man, Corv realizes that's not Brasso, and he calls it in on his comlink and says they've been played, and he demands to know where the big man is. While inside a maintenance tunnel under a shed, Cassian retrieves a knife from his bag while Pegla keeps a lookout through a grate overlooking the shed door. From the other end of the tunnel, a light shines down, blinding Cassian, and he gasps, but quickly realizes, hey, it's Brasso, and the two men share an embrace. Grief-stricken, Cassian tells Brasso that he wanted Marva to leave with him, that he came back to get her, and Brasso says that Marva did tell him that. Cassian laments that he couldn't get back, and Brasso tells him that he shouldn't be here now. Guilt-ridden, Cassian says the last time that he saw his mother, they argued, and he told her that he was coming back. But Brasso tells him, don't, and to stop. Anguished, Cassian says he never should have left. He never should have left that morning. But again, Brasso forcefully says, stop. Well, then, softening his tone, he tells Cassian that Marva told him that he would say everything that he just told him now. And when Cassian looks up at him, Brasso gives him the final message from his mom. Tell him none of this is his fault. It was already burning. He's just the first spark of the fire. Very Poe Dameron-like, by the way.
Mhm.
Tell him he knows everything he needs to know and feels everything he needs to feel. And when the day comes and those two pull together, he will be an unstoppable force for good. Tell him I love him more than anything he could ever do wrong. I did not full on cry this week, but I welled up more this episode than any other episode in the series so far. With a clenched jaw, Cassian stares up at Brasso as he takes in his mother's last words. Just then, Pegla, who's standing on a ladder below the grate, signals to the two men to be quiet as two Imperial soldiers pass by outside. When the soldiers pass, Pegla says that the street is clear, and he beckons the two to hurry up. Cassian asks about Bix, and Brasso tells him that they still have friends inside the hotel that have confirmed that Bix was alive at least 3 days ago. Cassian asks, why are they holding her? And Brasso proposes that she must know something. Checking his blaster, Cassian says they can't just leave her there. And Brasso retorts, you're going to take on a full garrison? The glare from Cassian is the only answer he needs, as Brasso says he'll take care of Marva. Then, pointing at Cassian, he says, you take care of yourself. But Cassian says it's too late for that. And he heads off down the tunnel towards the grate. Brasso watches him go for a second before turning around and going back down the tunnel the same way he came in. On the Ferrix speeder bus, Cyril Karn and Linus Mosk ride into town. Each man appears to be dressed in an appropriate local attire, but without so much as a glance at each other, the two men trade hats. Presumably, Mosk thinks the switch will better complete their outfits.
Maybe.
I took the opportunity here again for you guys who are watching the show live or getting it on the replay. You can see what I'm talking about here. This is a conglomerate of the first time we saw them when they showed up in their Primor uniforms. And I mean, again, the hat thing, there is a similarity. So I'm not really sure what the significance to the hat swap is.
Maybe it's like a hats off to you, sir. Like you brought me the info and I came back.
I mean, so I just watched the entire thing again, and I was thinking, sure. I was looking at I think it was episode 3 where they had the big fight on Ferrix.
Yeah.
And all the officers have orange brims on their hats, and all the rest of the guys have blue hats. And I think he was literally giving him the orange officer's hat. Like that.
That's an interesting thought.
Like he still feels like he's his
they both have orange brims, but I see where you're going with that. Like he was the officer where Mosk was the sergeant, right?
Yeah.
So I got a brown one, I got an orange one, you got a brown one here, that you're the officer, you wear this.
Right. That's an interesting detail.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting detail.
I only thought about it in terms of that when I watched the previous episodes, and all the 12 men that went with them had blue brims.
Like they were just a lower.
The 2 officers had orange.
Rank and file. Oh, that's very interesting. It says a lot about their relationship too. Like that, like we said at the phone call, he still calls him sir.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
absolutely.
That's weird. All right. Well,
they both believed in what they were doing at the time.
No, they absolutely did.
Like,
yeah.
Justice was not served.
Oh, and they still
3 more brothers.
And I mean, he's following him blindly into something. He doesn't even know why he's there. He's just following him.
The joke, Hank, you had said, I wonder if he's going to swing by Morlana 1 and pick him up. Yes, he did.
Sure he did.
I wonder how pissed Edie is about the amount of money that he stole from him. And how much money did he actually take? That'd be interesting.
Does she even know yet?
Well, by now she probably does. Although, hyperspace being what it is.
Yeah.
He just left 10 minutes ago.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Meanwhile, back in town, Pegla exits the utility shed onto the street. He closes the door behind him and he briskly walks away. Unbeknownst to him, though, Nurchi has been watching from down the street the whole time. Meanwhile, inside the utility shed, Cassian climbs out through the grate and he goes over to another ladder on the wall and he begins climbing up to the upper level of that building. I'm just going to put it out there now Nurchi is a freaking weasel.
Yeah. It's a spy
Anything that,
movie. Just found
yeah,
to
I
be
mean,
easy.
that right from the beginning where it's like, oh, you got the big guy to come and be your muscle. I get it that Cassian, we're not supposed to like Cassian in those first episodes, and we don't.
Mhm.
He's wronged people. I mean, come on. Like,
Well, it's funny because it's all these other characters have evolved to the big picture, and he's still playing a petty game.
oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, elsewhere in town, Vel sits on a street corner and she watches as a contingent of stormtroopers march past. Shortly afterwards, Luthen joins her and asks if Cassian has come home. Vel says that the Imperials, seem to think so, adding that an Imperial ISB supervisor has recently arrived in town. Luthen asks if it's a woman, and Vel mockingly says, "You know her." But Luthen answers with a straight, "Not yet." He calls the Imperial activity good. And when Vel says, "How is this possibly good?" he tells her that the Empire will hunt Cassian for them, and all they have to do is kill him before they start asking any questions. Luthen asks how long until the festivities start, and Vel tells him that he has a few hours, but he'll hear the time grappler ring the anvil to announce the start. Luthen then asks where Cinta is, and she tells him watching the mother's house. He tells Vel forget about that and have her head over to the hotel while he takes a look around town.
Can we just talk about his plan for a second there?
Yeah, sure we can.
So he's like moving chess pieces around the board to
Yep.
purchase items. First of all, he's purchased several of Cassian's items without meeting Cassian in the past. This is the idea that he's
Yep.
met with Bix 6 consecutive times, probably bought 5 or 6 items, and then used them
Right.
for the rebellion against the Empire.
And distribute them to.
Then he
Saw or
orchestrated
whoever.
this Aldani heist to really put a dent in their finances, if you will, steal payroll. And I guess more than just to put a dent in their payroll, but is to fund
bump
his
their
thing.
own funding.
Their own, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Turn it against them. But then he's going to just kill a prisoner. Like they've got a garrison here.
I feel like that ties.
His plan is to just wait till they get him and then get, like this is so brazen here. But I do, because I'm going to go off later in the episode.
Sure.
I really feel like Luthen Rail, despite Tony Gilroy's, I don't know what the word is.
Direction.
Right. To the contrary, I think Luthen Rail is a Force user, if not straight up a Jedi.
Interesting.
And a Jedi or a Sith wouldn't. They might plan all these other things, but when the moment push comes to shove, he's going to act regardless of the odds, and that's a crazy Jedi-like trait.
Yeah.
And I'll get into who I think he is. It comes up more organically later.
Certainly, there's that. On another level, it kind of fits in well with the conversation that he had with Saw about how Anto Krieger can hurt him, and Cassian can hurt Luthen in a similar way that Anto Krieger would. Cassian knows who Luthen is.
No, it was Saw that could hurt him.
Sorry, you're right. Sorry, it was Saw.
Saw
can hurt Luthen in a way that Anto Krieger couldn't.
And Cassian could feasibly identify him. We have to kill him before they begin asking questions. Yeah. But he's here in the flesh, about to attempt to kill somebody he'll be in Imperial custody. We'll just Aldani was nuts. This plan is off the chains nuts. Like he's not thinking clearly, I don't think.
I mean, conceivably he could just fire up the ship, hit the hotel from the air and hope they kill everybody inside.
What's his plan? His plan is literally to wait for them to get him and then we'll kill him then.
That's right.
So what does he know that we don't?
Well, I don't know.
Because he had a vision of the future.
The other thing I want to talk about here in this scene in particular is we spent an awful long time talking about the relationship between Vel and Luthen. She is angry at him for something and she's been holding back. Here they are face to face and we get nothing.
Yeah.
We get absolutely nothing. No development there whatsoever. And I was like, what? Not even like, we'll talk about it later just to let us know that that's ongoing. Like nothing.
Yeah, but at the same time, both of them realize that there's literally a garrison walking by. And if you start causing a scene now, it's all going to go to hell.
Sure, I can accept that.
Yeah.
I can accept that. I don't
Yeah.
like it, but
Yeah, but like now is not the time to be blowing up at him.
all right, that's fair. That is fair. Well, suddenly the anvil rings out, and both Luthen and Vel are a little confused as to what the heck is going on.
And perhaps they would have had it out if it hadn't been 2 hours early.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as the anvil rings out from the bell tower, Imperial troops stop to take notice, including Lieutenant Keysax, who steps out from the hotel to investigate. Luthen tells Vel to get Cinta, and he'll be at the hotel. And the time grappler continues to ring the bell. Now, once again, the descriptive audio tells us, in case you missed it the first time, like apparently I had forgotten,
No sweat.
the time grappler's anvil is made of Beskar, which I probably should have known considering the shape of it and the fact that it looks like, Damascus steel, just like that ingot we saw in The Mandalorian. I don't know if we talked about it though in the previous episode. How did that much Beskar get here to begin with?
Yeah.
Was it a gift?
And being what we know about Beskar and how valuable it is,
Right.
it just sits there. Like I get it's heavy, but
you saw how Paz Vizsla reacted to the Imperial ingots and how like they were stolen.
Yeah.
So I mean, this anvil clearly predates the Empire because we see the Empire show up.
Yeah.
So that's the big question for me is how did it get here? And more importantly, why didn't it get taken back?
Or is that about to happen in season 2?
I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe we're not going to, I don't think we're coming back to Ferrix by the, before season 2. Maybe. I don't think so. Anyway. Yeah. Beskar
Anvil.
Beskar Anvil.
Cassian, now inside a crawl space at the top of the building that he just scaled, crawls forward on his hands and knees to an opening that overlooks the town center. Elsewhere, the horn section of a marching band warms up, while at the same time, Dedra marches into the headquarters room at the hotel asking, "What's going on?" Tigo, dressed with his poncho over his uniform, storms past her saying that he's not sure, and he heads off to investigate as well. On another street, the woodwind section of a band begins their warm-up, while just outside Marva's house, Jezzy and the Daughters of Ferrix adjust their ceremonial uniforms in preparation for the funeral. As the Beskar anvil continues to ring out, Luthen makes his way down Rick's Road towards the hotel. At the same time, Cyril Karn and Linus Mosk also move toward the town center. Cut to a balcony with an Imperial soldier on it. We can hear a guard's radio and we can hear music. Cassian, still perched in the crawl space, watches as things slowly begin to unfold. Taking out a small monocular, he moves to another opening in the corner of the building and he begins to scan the hotel windows across the street. A drummer begins to beat a cadence, and the brass section falls in behind him and begins to play. Mourners on both sides of the street make way for them, while at the same time, Jezzy leads the Daughters of Ferrix from Marva's house. And as the parade moves, more and more citizens join in. Wilman Pack, now wearing his father's jacket, closes the door to the shop and he locks it. And you get the look that, like, he's locking it up for the last time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Climbing a set of stairs, Wilman also falls in with the procession. On another street, Corv, dressed in his street attire, tries to make sense of what's going on as he makes his way through the woodwind section. Little does he know that Cinta is still tailing him just a few steps away. At the same time, Vel, who's been looking for Cinta, stops at an intersection to look around. There's a look of concern on her face, and she quickly moves on. One thing that's really amazing about the show is that no matter how big in scope it gets, it always reminds us at the core that it's about the average people in the galaxy. And it couldn't be more apparent than this week's episode when you realize that Dr. Mulmoy, the doctor that saw Marva back in episode 10, is also the lead trumpet in the marching band.
Which is kind of fitting.
Yeah. And the other bit, now this is the other big thing. It's also important to point out that the music that the band is playing is the show theme song, which tells us that it was a funeral dirge all along. That's one of those moments where you kind of, I had that, what's the feeling like that? You get all tingly when you have that realization, like, oh shit. When it changes each week, and then you realize now, knowing what it actually is, that it's a funeral song, and you think about the themes of each episode and how that theme changed week to week, and it's like, oh, one week it's a little more uplifting, another week it's a little more, tense and suspenseful, and this week it was exactly what
Somber.
it was supposed to be. Yeah.
But it makes sense he's leading the pack, though.
He's your what is he?
Actor Matt Dunkley is the orchestrator for all 12 episodes.
Right. Well, outside the hotel, Lieutenant Keysax, speaking into a comlink, says, "Of course I can hear it. I just can't see it." Captain Tigo joins him, and both men are quite angry that the funeral has started hours before it was supposed to. Keysax says people are coming from all over town, and Tigo orders every asset they have outside in a show of force. Stepping into the hotel lobby, Keysax calls a stand to, which I thought was very, very British. Stand to, and the men begin rushing to don riot gear. By now, the brass section has entered the plaza at the town center as more and more people file in from every direction.
And another echo of that, show of force.
Yeah.
Put our image out there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's a military thing to do. I mean, we did that when I was overseas in Afghanistan. We did that. We did shows of force where you just put everything you have out there. Maybe you fire off, you do a weapons test fire. You're not shooting at anybody. You're just
saying,
sighting your weapons, but it gives your enemy a sense of your combat power, of what you can project, and it can be a deterrent. I don't know if it was very effective in this case.
Well, it might have been against 40 people, but
that's true. Inside the hotel, Bix leans up against the window of her room, while across the street, Cassian still searches the area with his binocular. Spotting Captain Tigo, we can hear him shout, "You call this a perimeter?" And he barks orders for the soldiers to get this illegal gathering squared away. Army troopers, now suited up, rush out onto the street armed with batons and riot shields. Teams begin deploying in every direction as Keysax directs them into position. At the same time, the brass and the woodwind sections begin to converge at the bell tower, while Tigo watches his troops get into position. From his perch across the street, Cassian spots Luthen through his binocular. Lowering the scope, he's dumbfounded by what he just saw. Meanwhile, Cyril and Linus continue making their way towards the city center, while locals rush past them to catch up with the parade. And Jezzy and the daughters of Ferrix continue their march. As Korv makes his way towards the town center, Nurchi falls in step beside him and reveals to us that he's been acting as an Imperial informant. He tells Korv that he wants double the reward and a ride off of Ferrix when everything is over. Shocked at the revelation, Korv exclaims, "You found him?" When Korv asks Nurchi, "Where is he?" Nurchi tells him, "Pretend to arrest me." So at the edge of an Imperial checkpoint, Korv drops his act and strong arms Nurchi through the line of troopers, taking him into custody. Korv is still completely unaware that Cinta is onto him. Of course, she just saw that happen. So.
And if she wasn't fully convinced before, she is now.
Hey, how did that guy in street clothes walk through that line? As Korv takes Nurchi in, Cyril and Linus arrive at the town center. Making their way down some stairs to street level, they walk right past Luthen. At the bottom of the staircase, a trooper denies them access to the street, and the two men are forced back up the stairs. Then, finally, the full band comes together at the town center with dozens, if not hundreds, of mourners in tow. Inside the hotel, Corv informs both Captain Tigo and Supervisor Miro that, according to his informant, Cassian Andor is in the building across the street. Dedra calls for 2 men to be assigned to her, while Tigo asks if the informant has seen him. Corv says no, but insists that he's there, and Dedra says, we're wasting time. Tigo says that he has a recon unit on the terrace now, and Dedra shuts him down with a hard no. She says that she needs him alive, and she warns Tigo not to make her say that again. All the while, Nurchi sits off in a corner with his head hung low, as well he should. Weasel.
Sold him out.
Weasel. In the Bell Tower Plaza, Brasso, dressed in a ceremonial uniform, marches forward carrying Marva Andor's Ferrix brick. B2EMO is just behind him. Down the street, riot troopers rush to form a line in front of the hotel. Then, one by one, the camera passes over the solemn faces of Zanwan, Wilmon, and Pegla. From his hideout above the plaza, Cassian is fraught with emotion as the music overcomes him. At this point, the music sounds less like an amateur marching band and becomes a little more symphonic for that kind of emotional where... Yeah.
It's building.
Yeah.
Very much.
But it goes back down again, though.
Yeah.
While inside the hotel, Bix rests her head against the window of her cell and hums along with the band as tears roll down her face. Leading her 2 death troopers, Dedra heads for the building across the street. But Cassian spots them, as does Cyril Karn, who tries to get to her. Now, Cyril remarks, it's her. She's here. Fortunately, Mosk holds him back, preventing him from doing something stupid. And while Luthen, who's standing behind them with a calculating gaze, sees what's happening but makes no outward gesture to do anything. Dedra leads her troopers off of Rick's Road and down a narrow side street towards the utility shed, while B2EMO rolls up beside Brasso. Then the band stops abruptly, and you can hear the dust blow through the square. It's an interesting use of like the absence of sound.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as suddenly as they stopped, the band starts up again, only now they, along with hundreds of mourners, march toward the hotel at double the pace. People line the streets and the rooftops as the parade marches past, and more lines of Imperial riot troops are ushered into place as the situation grows more tense. Having reached the utility shed, Dedra sends her death troopers inside to clear it, while Captain Tigo steps onto the street to link up with Lieutenant Keysax. Keysax asks what they're doing, and Tigo angrily remarks that they're wasting time. With the shed now cleared, Corv, armed with his blaster, climbs the ladder, ready to either arrest or shoot Cassian if necessary. Out on the street, Brasso and B2 lead the procession ever closer to the hotel. Then Corv is now back on the ground, shaking his head no, because contrary to what Nurchi told them, Cassian isn't there. But peering past him, Dedra does notice the steel grate on the back wall. Cassian now runs down the tunnel that spans Rick's Road underneath the hotel. There's a hopeful irony about it, as this is surely the tunnel that Marva was checking on when she got sick.
Yeah.
Outside, the mourners reach the line of Imperial riot troops at the edge of the town square, and Brasso turns around to face the funeral procession. Under the hotel, Cassian lifts a barred gate, and he heads up a set of stairs into the building, while on the street, the people begin to fan out into the square. Passing through a pantry, Cassian enters a kitchen. At the same time, B2EMO bobs his head with the music as the mourners begin to chant, "Stone and sky, stone and sky." The chant builds as more and more people join in, while off to the side, Cyril, Linus, and Luthen watch with curiosity. Still leaning against the barred window, Bix quietly chants along with the rest of the mourners. In the kitchen, Cassian hears someone approaching, so drawing his blaster, he tucks up against a shelf and he catches the man unaware. Outside, the stone to sky chant builds to a crescendo And when we cut back to the kitchen, Cassian recognizes the cook as their friend Tennick. He's obviously the friend who's in the hotel that Brasso had referred to earlier. Lowering his blaster, Cassian asks, "Where's Bix?" And Tennick nods in the right direction. As Cassian heads off, Tennick offers his condolences about Marva. And now, with the band having stopped playing and the people no longer chanting, once again we can hear the ringing of the Time Grappler's Beskar anvil. Our man Tennick, the cook. If you've been watching any other TV shows this season, particularly House of the Dragon, you may recognize him. It's actor Gavin Spokes. He did show up in 6 episodes of House of the Dragon as Lord Lionel Strong. He was the replacement Hand of the King. So yeah, good for him. 2 hit series in the same year.
Yeah.
In the plaza, B2 EMO draws himself up to his full height while a holo projector rotates into place on the top of his head. Activating the projector, a giant 3-dimensional image of Marva, dressed in her ceremonial attire, towers over the crowd nearly 2 stories tall. Brasso and all the other mourners look up as she begins to speak. "My name is Marva Karasi Andor. I'm honored to stand before you. I'm honored to be a daughter of Ferrix, and honored to be worthy of the stone." Appearing to look around the plaza, she pauses. Strange. Feels as if I can see it. Meanwhile, inside the hotel, Cassian makes his way carefully towards Bix's cell, while outside, Marva's speech continues. "I think I was 6 the first time I touched a funerary stone." Outside, Dedra and Corv split up, continuing to look for Cassian, while Cyril notices her walk past again. Still, Marva's speech goes on. "Heard our music, felt our history, holding my sister's hand as we walked all the way down from Fountain Square. Where you stand now, I've been more times than I can remember. I always wanted to be lifted." Well, behind the line of riot troops, Captain Tigo notices Dedra walking off alone and scowls, while the hollow of Marva continues. "I was always eager, always waiting to be inspired. I remember every time it happened, every time the dead lifted me with their truth." Inside the hotel, Nurchi sits there slack-jawed while Bix watches from her cell. "And now I'm dead, and I yearn to lift you." Yeah. Nurchi sitting there kind of like, "Not because I want to shine or even be remembered. It's because I want you to go on. I want Ferrix to continue." Outside, Corv continues moving through the crowd, scanning the rooftops as he goes, while Cassian makes his way upstairs at the hotel. "In my waning hours, that's what comforts me most. But I fear for you. We've been sleeping. We've had each other and Ferrix, our work, our days. We had each other, and they left us alone. We kept the trade lanes open, and they left us alone." Cassian moves closer to Bix's cell, while Tigo watches the crowd, becoming increasingly angry. Meanwhile, Dedra and her death troopers search the back alleys. "We took their money and ignored them. We kept their engines churning, and the moment they pulled away, we forgot them because we had each other." Oh my lord. Nodding her head, Marva continues. "We had Ferrix." Brasso looks up at her, moved by the words. "But we were sleeping. I've been sleeping." Wilman looks up at Marva with tears streaking down his face. "And I've been turning away from the truth I wanted not to face. There is a wound that won't heal at the center of the galaxy. There is a darkness reaching like rust into everything around us. We let it grow, and now it's here. It's here, and it's not visiting anymore. It wants to stay. The Empire is a disease that thrives in darkness. It's never more alive than when we sleep. It's easy for the dead to tell you to fight. Maybe it's true. Maybe fighting is useless. Perhaps it's too late. But I'll tell you this. If I could do it again, I'd wake up early and be fighting these bastards from the start. Tigo, having had enough, orders the men out of his way as he tears off his cape, rushing forward to B2 EMO and throws it over his head. The crowd begins to protest, and unfortunately for Tigo, he didn't cover the holo projector quite as well as he would have liked to, and the partial image of Marva Andor shouts, "Fight the Empire!" Tigo shouts, "Enough!" and flips B2 over, and that's all it takes to incite the crowd into a full-on riot.
I was ready to fight.
Droids.
I was ready to fight.
Yeah, me too. Well, Brasso kicks Tigo square in the chest, knocking him to the ground, and two troopers try to subdue him, but they are no match for the big man. Brasso takes down another trooper, smashing the man in the face with Marva's Ferrix brick.
He executed Order Brixie.
Love it.
Brixie brick.
Brick's Road Brick.
Remember Bix's words, she's a rebel.
Yep.
And she just fought the Empire.
She's
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's
Smashes
using their weapons against them. Like
absolutely,
there's so many. That's deep when he uses her.
Smashing the man in the face with Marva's Ferrix brick. He then raises his hands over his head and screams, and it's like a rally cry as the crowd surges forward into the Imperial line. There was a lot of inspiration. I don't know if you guys caught any of the stuff from Tony Gilroy in this past week. Now that the show is out, he's been making the rounds again. A lot of this is sort of inspired by Northern Ireland. What happened in Northern Ireland with the IRA? In the hotel, Cassian stumbles on a lone guard patrolling the hallways. Catching the man off guard, he deftly flips the man flat on his back before pressing his own blaster into the man's chest and squeezing the trigger. He's a cold killer.
No hesitation.
No. Outside, as the riot rages on, Tigo manages to crawl back through the Imperial line while more and more of the mourners charge at the line of riot troopers. And once again, the time grappler beats his anvil. Keysax shouts at the troops to hold the line before dispatching a stormtrooper to stop the time grappler. I bet you that troopers were getting that. Inside the hotel, Cassian opens the door to Bix's cell, where he finds her sitting on the floor against a wall. Seeing him enter, she says, "I dreamt you came back." Cassian softly calls out to her, "Bix." Lost in her own mind, she tells him, "You climbed over a wall." Cassian tells her they have to get out of there. And Bix goes on about how Marva was there, and Cassian meets her on the same level. Wasn't she great? And Bix manages a long smile. As the rioters push up against the wall of troops, one of them uses a shock rod to push them back. A hapless Kubaz takes the full force of the rod and falls paralyzed as the troops pull him through their lines and take him into custody. Meanwhile, Nurchi watches the riot from the relative safety of the hotel lobby, while upstairs, Cassian urges Bix to come with him. He tells her that there's no one out in the hall, but she's hesitant to go, and she pulls back from him, saying they'll get angry. I thought it was cool. There was lots of talk about why there aren't a whole lot of aliens, but they sure made a point to show this one off very prominently. Kubaz, or humanoid insectoids, goes all the way back to A New Hope in 1977. The guy, Garandan was the guy that sold out Han Solo at Docking Bay in 94. Yeah.
Nice.
One
of the articles I did read about Gilroy said that there was sort of a reason there wasn't a lot of aliens.
I think I read the same thing. Yeah.
And that they will be definitely more prominent. He kind of wanted it to feel like a very personal problem, especially for the audience. So we can relate to humans like really easy. So we wanted to feel like it's a human problem. And I think the idea is that it's going to be a much larger problem. We're gonna see how big the galaxy is next season.
Did you read the practical? It's kind of You can take it tongue in cheek, but as funny as it is, there's some practicality to it when he's talking specifically about Narkina 5. Like, how many different forms of genitals are there in the galaxy, and how would the bathrooms work?
Mhm.
Right.
You know, and I
Right.
mean, the bathroom played a significant role in the escape. So it's interesting. Like I say, you could take it tongue in cheek, but there is a seriousness about that. So
Yeah, I
interesting
mean,
way to.
what the pace that feeds human might not feed every,
Oh,
race.
absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and like they're only building one gear, and literally this is just one little gear within the entire thing, right?
Well, according to the Wikipedia, the Kubas species are insectoid-like, but they also eat other insects, which makes them kind of like the black
eat
sheep of the insectoid
Hmm.
community. Like, oh, you eat other.
Wow, if you got a mosquito problem on Ferrix, there's a good solution.
Yeah. So Garandan, that's the first one we saw. Apparently, he was forced into being a spy. He didn't actually want to be. So interesting. I thought for a second we might be witnessing like this is them taking him in. That's the same guy, but like the more I look at the two of them, I'm like, no, that's not the same person.
Yeah, a little bit different.
Big time.
Mind you, they would take him in and subject him to that murdering child noise.
Oh yeah.
They'll break him.
That's true. As the riot rages on, Willman gets bumped. As mourners charge past him, he locks eyes with Keysax before reaching into his bag and pulling out his homemade IED. Now, the descriptive audio calls it a pipe bomb. That's very Northern Ireland, a pipe bomb, but IED nonetheless. Meanwhile, Dedra, having exited the alleyway, gets swept up in the crowd just as Willman activates his IED and throws
Good
it
arm.
over. Yeah, lobs it over the Imperial line. Seeing the device now airborne, Cyril makes a break for it through the Imperial line, but before he can reach Dedra, the IED lands just underneath the armored speeder sitting out in front of the hotel and detonates, flipping the speeder over on its side. Well, the blast also blows out the front windows of the hotel, killing several troops along with Nurchi.
Practical explosion too. Fantastic.
Yeah, looked really good.
Yeah, really good.
With the speeder now on its side, an ammo bin flops open, and the explosive rounds inside, maybe grenades, begin to cook off one by one. Cyril is knocked face first to the street, while the window and the bars on Bix's cell are blown out. Fortunately, Bix and Cassian are huddled underneath the window, and most of the debris is blown into the center of the room. Was the last of the ammunition cooks off, the dust settles, and both Imperials and mourners begin to collect themselves. Luthen gathers himself up on the staircase and beats a hasty retreat out of the town center, while Linus Mosk shakes the fog off and tries to get up. Miraculously, both Keysax and Tigo, who were remarkably close to that explosion, pick themselves up seemingly unscathed. While inside the hotel, Cassian helps Bix onto her feet so that they can get out of the building.
The black uniform is better than Stormtrooper armor.
Apparently, yeah. Minor detail. Meanwhile, Vel, who has been looking for Cinta and was nowhere near the blast, sprints into the town center, disappearing into the cloud of smoke and dust.
That's a great shot.
Super powerful.
Like she's like
everybody's running away and she's running in.
Yeah, super powerful.
It's what heroes do.
Yeah, 100%.
It's what heroes
100%.
do. Yeah. Well, on the street, the riot troops take out their batons and they go about beating the rioters. To them, this is no longer a matter of civil unrest. It's now a matter of survival. Keysax, having witnessed Willman throw his IED, spots the boy in the crowd and barks, "Get him!" as he also shouts, "Hold the line!" Tigo, meanwhile, has managed to pull himself away from the melee, and he gives the command to open fire. Stormtroopers on the balcony above begin firing down into the crowd as do the troops in front of the hotel. Rioters begin dropping as blaster bolts find their mark, and a pair of stormtroopers move to apprehend Willman. But Brasso is there, having retrieved what looks like a droid arm or maybe a cybernetic arm, and he uses it like a bludgeon to beat down one of the troopers with it. Taking a hold of the second trooper, he headbutts him and then drags Willman off through the crowd. With blaster fire erupting all around, many of the mourners break and run for it, while the Imperial troops begin to advance. But the troopers are merciless as Tigo gives them the fire at will command, and they shoot retreating citizens in the back as they run. One of the daughters of Ferrix takes a bolt to the knee and falls. And when the trooper moves forward to finish her, Zanwan leaps onto his back, knocking the blaster from the trooper's grip. But a sniper on the balcony above picks him off with deadly accuracy. Still laying on his side, B2 EMO whimpers while the riot rages on around him. Meanwhile, Brasso and another man manage to drag Willman out of the town center. At the same time, Corv, who's presumably still looking for Cassian, turns around to see Cinta following him. Of course, he recognizes her as the girl from the cafe, and he forcefully asks, "What are you doing here?" Cinta feigns a fearful response as she recoils from his advance, but in reality, she's just baiting him, and he walks right into her knife as she drives it upward into his midsection from underneath his ribcage.
Yep.
Shocked by the sudden attack, Corv turns to lean on the jamb of an open doorway, and Cinta heaves the knife upwards again. Corv slumps to the floor, probably dead before he hit it, and Cinta catches her breath as she closes the door and hurries off. That's a very powerful murder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else you call that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she takes a moment to hide the body.
Good for her. I thought
Yeah.
that was quite good, by the way. And modern warfare dehumanizes a lot of this stuff, so that the fact that she did it with a knife, when Skeen said that she's cold, she just showed us how cold she can be
Oh, yeah, big time.
to kill somebody up close and personal like that. So I think maybe you're right, Hank, about that family.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a hard cookie.
She sure is.
Well, what was it that Be Real said in The Last Assassin? Last thing you learn is the knife in hand.
I guess so, yeah.
Mm.
Out on the street, Pegla has managed to string up a rope around B2 EMO, and he drags him out of the town center. Meanwhile, Cassian and Bix have made their way down to the hotel lobby, but one of Dedra's death troopers has just stepped in and has seen them, and he opens fire. Cassian shoves Bix back against a wall, then, taking a page from Mel Gibson's playbook, makes a diving shot, bullseyeing the trooper in the chest.
He lethal weaponed him.
He does. Laying there on the floor, Cassian notices the limp form of Nurchi just a few feet away. And honestly, it's probably better this way, because at least Cassian can think that Nurchi died as a prisoner, not as a double crossing weasel. One of the fleeing rioters actually turns back to face the onslaught of troopers, but is savagely cut down by the heavy cannon of a second speeder. And as you can see here, the bolt passes clean through him, striking another rioter behind him. Wow.
They are not set.
Have we seen that
Very
before?
efficient.
Blaster bolts passing through people?
I don't think we've seen anything
yes.
that visceral. Have we?
We have when in Kenobi,
Okay.
when she turns back and drops 3 at once
Oh, right. With a single shot.
with a single shot.
Yeah.
And that was just
that's
from like
true.
a blaster. Right?
You're right.
Nothing
You're right.
heavy.
I had forgotten about that.
But proximity could have played a role in that.
Maybe. I mean, well, these guys, this is interesting too. I watched this. I got to watch it again, but clearly this is a reuse of that speeder.
Mm.
It's a reuse. Did we see a second one get wheeled up when the troops were getting rolled out? I don't think we did.
No.
I think, okay, just reset, go again. Or
I can
just shoot
imagine
it
they're
out of
all over the
sequence.
city,
Yeah.
though. I mean,
Probably.
yeah. See, there's a thing here that that's really disturbing. That it happens off camera,
Yep.
and I guarantee it happens. And there's a massacre right after we
yeah.
cut to all our characters getting resolution. There's
Yeah.
a massacre on Ferrix.
Of
Because if it
course
doesn't
there
happen
is.
right now,
It's about
there's a
to.
Star
It's coming.
Destroyer inbound, and it's
It's coming.
any time, and that's we don't get to see that, but it's 100%.
We may
The
get it in a
tragedy
video
of
screen, like a spell house like sequence or something.
right.
Yeah. Ferrix City was leveled.
Yeah.
That's the reality of a rebellion. There's going to be more blood left behind than
And we know that the
ever shed.
Empire, the evil Empire that they are. I mean, we know what they are, what lengths
This,
they're willing to go
this is
to.
what they
Yeah.
do. If you poke
Yeah.
them even a little bit, they
Oh, sure.
wipe you out. This is
Yeah.
where we begin to see things like
You
the
hit
way
me with a
Migs-
brick, I'm going to drop a building on you.
Yeah.
well, the way Migs Mayfield reacts to
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
remember the battle he was
Yeah,
at,
I know who you're
you know.
talking about, though. Yeah.
right. So yeah, and you get to see their doctrine of just like, let's annihilate these people,
Yeah.
no matter what
Shooting
the
them in the
cost.
back as they run away.
It's classy to not do it on camera too, because it's inferred. Like, I mean, if you understand the lore and the tactics of the Empire,
Right,
you're like,
right.
oh, this is so much worse than
Yeah.
we actually get to see, and we get to see it pretty bad.
Yeah, we do. Well, the troopers continue their advance, while Dedra, meanwhile, draws her pistol finally, only to be struck in the head by a flying brick and knocked to the ground. So the uniforms are explosive proof, but not brick proof.
Not the helmets, not the
Not the hat.
not the hats.
Very much out of her arena at that.
Oh, I know. The look on her face though when she went down. I'm laughing now because it is funny, but like, good on her. The one thing I will say about the series as a whole is the acting has just been phenomenal. It's
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, fortunately for her, she was not knocked unconscious, and she gets up quickly, recovers to her hands and knees, and scrambles for her weapon, but is knocked over by a fleeing rioter. Cassian and Bix exit the hotel and make a hasty retreat away from the town center. In the bell tower, the time grappler beats a steady cadence on his anvil while Cassian and Bix move as fast as they can down an alleyway away from the riot. Well, that stormtrooper that Keysax had dispatched to stop the ringing finally makes his way up the stairs, but it's a very short encounter as the time grappler plants the big boot right in his chest, knocking him from the tower, certainly to his death.
Have you seen the meme floating around already? This is
Mhm.
Ferrix.
This is fair. I was
the
really
look on
hoping he
his
was going to
face.
smash him with the hammer. I
hammer.
was really hoping for some hammer stuff, but
Smash the helmet off him.
that was super satisfying.
Coincidentally, Tigo just happens to be looking at the
Yeah.
exact moment that
It's like a variation on the Wilhelm there too. It's
It
like a
is,
high-pitched version of the. Might have been
almost wondered if it may have been a woman.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Meanwhile, Dedra, still scrambling to recover her weapon, is suddenly set upon by a mob of angry rioters and dragged to her feet.
I had a moment here, like I
She's
had to
going to get
check,
lynched.
Yeah.
like I checked myself as a human being because I got excited when I thought they were going to tear her in.
They're gonna
apart
lynch
in the
her.
streets, like Game of Thrones style. I thought they were
Yeah,
going to rip her
yeah,
to
yeah.
shreds, and I got excited about it. And I had to check. I went, "Whoa!"
I
Whoa.
can't say that I was excited, but I was certainly like, I kind of got a little wide eyed. I'm like,
Is
oh,
this
they are
her
going
ending?
to.
I was like,
her.
"No, she deserves this thoroughly." Like,
Well,
but
yeah.
yes.
wow, are they really going to go there? And
Die, fascist, die.
Yeah, like
Kill that space Nazi.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
so. It was
Punch her in the face. Like Superman or Captain America punches a Nazi. Yeah. All right. She gets set upon by an angry mob. One of them manages to actually get her weapon and jams it into her back and forcefully drags her down an alleyway saying, "Do as I say." The man opens a door and shoves her inside of a supply closet. Dedra grabs a spare part from one of the shelves and she wheels around ready to slice the man's throat with it, but is shocked to see that it's Cyril Karn. He lets her go while Dedra stands there shaking. Realizing who it is, she exclaims, "You!" and asks, "How?" Cyril calmly replies, "You are in trouble. as he gently removes the spare part from her hand. Looking up at him, she says, I should say thank you. But Cyril tells her in that creepy way, you don't have to.
There's also a meme floating around about that one with
Kiss her.
yeah, Edna from The Incredibles.
Edna Mode from
Kiss
the
her already.
Kiss her. Cassian and Bix continue their flight from the town center, seemingly with no one giving chase. And then we cut to Luthen, who has now made it several blocks away and is looking back down at the riot with a scowl on his face. Over at Cinta's apartment, she and Vel break down and pack up all the observation gear. Vel notices the blood on Cinta's hand and stops her, saying, you're bleeding. But Cinta tells her it's fine and not to worry about it because it's not her blood. And the two women share a grim look and then promptly get back to work.
Just while Luthen's on the screen, I think we kind of glanced over the Luthen's reactions to Marva's speech.
It's everything he could have ever wanted.
They linger, and I think what he understands is that he's not alone in the fight at that moment.
Which for sure.
Which heavily influences his decision at the very end. And I thought I'd bring that up right now.
No, it's totally worth bringing up.
Yeah, because he's on screen. I just noticed him, and I was like, "No, wait a minute."
He's just been given something to ponder on
because he's doing everything but breaking a smile. There, his entire. How do I motivate people to fight? And it's laid out before him like that. Like, I can motivate this individual and that individual with my my power and my wherewithal and stuff. But how do you ignite a fire under the entire galaxy? And there it is. This is
something that I said. That I kind of hoped. That speech, Marva's speech. That's the kind of thing that you say. Did you hear what happened on Ferrix?
Yeah.
It's the telephone game, right?
Yeah.
And by the time it goes from
it's
Ferrix
Ezra Bridger's speech. If that gets out, if that gets broadcast, that's Ezra Bridger's speech. That's the kind of thing that, yes, absolutely.
It's the kind of thing that plays in the favor of people like Luthen and Saw and Mon, in that it is the telephone game. And as word of mouth, because let's say the Hollow itself doesn't make it because it's, broken or whatever.
Sure.
That story gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally, there wasn't a riot on Ferrix. It was
it was a rebellion.
4,000 people took down a ship.
Hologram 5,000 feet tall, shot into space, was telling the world, absolutely.
But that's the type of steamrolling that could help get the larger movement rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same way that Eldani went from just a couple dudes murdered to
exactly.
Burned the place to the ground.
Exactly, and we saw that happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, over at the used ship lot, Willman sits inside the vessel, the same vessel that Pegla had loaned Cassian to get over to Morlana 1 back at the beginning of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Jezzy comes out from the cockpit and she shouts, "Come on, guys!" Standing in the hatchway, she says that the fuel gauge reads empty. Meanwhile, both Pegla and Brasso work frantically to ready the ship for flight. Brasso takes a reading off the fuel canister that he's manning, and he says it reads full. Pegla tosses Jezzy a wrench and tells her to bang the gauge. He says it has a few kinks, but it's a good old ship. Brasso tells Pegla that he'd be more confident if Pegla was going with them, but Pegla claps him on the back and says, "She'll fly." And the two men finish disconnecting an assortment of hoses and lines from the craft, and Pegla tells Brasso to go now or forget it. Well, just that. Yeah, go ahead.
He's right. Because they had relaxed the air traffic rules.
Oh, right. Before they lock it down again. Yeah.
They figured they had a couple hours and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So
just then Pegla's hounds begin to bark, and B2 EMO rolls up to the hatchway. Well, Jezzy raises a pistol ready to shoot any Imperials that might have followed them. And then B2 announces Cassian as he and Bix enter the lot. Cassian hands Bix off to Brasso to help her aboard the ship, and Bix calls his name in recognition. So she's getting a little better, I guess.
Hmm.
With a smile, Cassian says she's coming around. Stepping on board the ship, Cassian and Jezzy exchange greetings before Cassian steps up to the hatchway and asks Pegla if the ship can reach Ganji Moon. Now, Ganji Moon, as best as I can tell, is a new location that we've not heard before. There was a lot of that in this series, by the way.
Do you think that's the moon
Galaxy.
that when he killed
Oh,
my goodness.
Dr. Quad Paws?
Dr. Quad Paws.
Quad
that
Paws,
scene.
that
Do
may
you think
be.
that's the moon?
Maybe. It's kind of a back out of the way. I mean, the doctor would be there, so maybe he could, tend
to the wounded.
Tend Bix, maybe kind of get her brain unscrambled. I don't know.
Well, it was, I can't remember, and this is so horrible, but I can't remember the guys. We've gone through so many characters.
Yeah.
But the guy that was in prison with the tattoos, he says, I got a moon. There's nobody there. We can disappear with our money.
Skeen.
Yeah, right before he gets shot.
Skeen, the other...
Skeen's plan to go to that uninhabited moon and hide out.
Yeah, before Cassian...
Right, so I wonder if that's Ganji Moon.
Maybe. I'll have to go back and check the dialogue.
I don't think he name dropped it.
I don't think he did either.
He didn't name drop it. I was just wondering if that
camera,
was the same.
Right?
It could have been.
I know a place to go. Can you get here?
Maybe. Could have been in his possession, like on a stick or a pad or something. Anything.
Every time they do a show like this of this scale, I need an updated galaxy map after every episode. I don't know where Ferrix is.
No, I'm going to talk. We'll get to that. I've got some it doesn't make sense, but we'll get there. Well, keeping his eye on the entrance to the lot, Pegla says, if they ever make it out of here. Brasso is surprised that Cassian isn't going with them, and Cassian tells Jezzy to stay low all the way to the far side sea. Then once they get over the water, climb. That's a recurrent theme. Climb. He tells her, no comms, all in. Saddened that Cassian isn't going with them, B2 laments, I never got to see you. Kneeling down beside his trusty droid, Cassian places a hand on B2's head and tells him to look after Bix, adding that I'm counting on you. B2 says, you always say that. And Cassian scoffs with a bit of a smile as he says, and you always come through. I love that line. I'm just going to put this out there now. Do you think they're going to retcon that comic?
Maybe.
Do you think B2 is going to go on to become...
No.
That you don't think so?
Maybe he'd keep the name, wouldn't he?
New body, KX body, B2, K2. Instead of being KX, whatever, an amalgamation of a KX droid and B2 could become K2.
I just think if you're calling the droid B your whole life, you'd still call him B.
Maybe.
I think the only reason that we don't get I bet you if we got more of Lando spending time in the Falcon after,
with
L3, might refer to the Falcon as L3.
As L3. Oh, that's an interesting thought too.
I don't know. Like I wouldn't name my dog something different, even if I gave it a new dog body or something. I don't know. Yeah. I just feel like I don't know if they'll do that or not.
I think
I understand the sentiment.
Yep.
I understand the sentiment. It would be a neat twist, but I don't think it doesn't feel like the character would change his name.
Maybe it's one of those, we talked about transference as fans, how there's certain things that we would like to see. Maybe that's a little bit, maybe I'm doing that a bit.
I think if they're going to do it, they're going to have to destroy his current body.
Well, I mean, he's already old and battered.
Yeah.
So it's not like he couldn't use an upgrade. Yeah.
Transfer his memory board or something.
That's true.
It might be too derivative of what happened on the Falcon too.
There is that too. There is that. Well, with everyone seated, Cassian shouts to Jezzy, get them out of here. Closing in on Bix, she quietly says, he'll find us. And Cassian stops to look at her, and Bix looks up at him and says, Cassian will find us. And in earnest, he tells her, I will. And Bix smiles at him. Cassian takes one last look at everyone on board, and he tells them, I'll find you. Now go. And he exits the ship. The old modified ship rumbles to life and lifts off while Cassian watches them go before running out of the shipyard. I love that, that everybody that's left that Cassian loves is right here.
Yeah.
They're all there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on Coruscant, over at the Chandrillan Embassy residence, Mon Mothma, Perrin, and Lita walk towards the front door. Each of them is impeccably dressed in traditional Chandrillan finery. Mon wears a troubled look, while Lita bears an air of excitement. An embassy worker opens the door, revealing Davos Skulden standing there with his wife Runal and their teenage son Stakhan, also dressed in traditional Chandrillan formal attire. Now, our Skuldens, Runal Skulden, that's Rosalind Halstead. She is an actor, model, and dancer, having appeared in 2019's The Trail of Christine Keeler, where she played Bronwyn for 6 episodes. And then before that, she appeared in the Amazon Prime original White Dragon, where she played Emma for 8 episodes. Now, Stakhan Skulden, that's actor Finley Glasgow, and this is his first acting credit that I could find. So good on you. Way to jumpstart your career with a Star Wars show.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll see more of him, not just in this show, but in other things as well.
I mean, it'd be a darn shame to be that kid not to get to wield a blaster or something at
Yeah,
least.
really. Later, on board the FANdor, Luthen. Oh, what did I do here? No,
Jumped
I've gone
ahead.
too far. I did go too far. Sorry. Okay, with the riot now over, Linus Mosk now sits atop the staircase and he takes a few long pulls off of a flask. And people walk by paying him no mind whatsoever. At the same time, Luthen, back atop of his speeder, races away from the city back to the hidden valley where the FANdor awaits him.
Right across that same weird
It's
segregated field.
They call it an agricultural zone, an agro zone. So I guess that's where the food comes from.
Yeah.
You notice it's really black and stuff, like the Empire's been stripping it like they do with Lothal.
Oh, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe. I just thought maybe that sort of, goes part and parcel with the fact that Ferrix is another ship-breaking world. So there are lots of like crap in the air. Like,
That's true too.
Yeah. Later, on board the FANdor, Luthen orders the droid mod to prepare for evac, full stealth. Dropping his cloak, he heads to the galley and tries to open the secret wardrobe, but the controls don't respond. In fact, the ship's droid mod, which is usually quite responsive, doesn't even answer him. Sensing that something is wrong, Luthen turns around and he heads into the cockpit. Now, the droid mod looks up at him, but doesn't say anything. Then, turning around, Luthen sees Cassian standing behind him in the walkway. The two men stare at each other in silence for a moment before Cassian asks him plainly, "You came here to kill me, didn't you?" Luthen replies, "You don't make it easy." With a shake of his head, Cassian gestures to a corner and says, "I will now." Luthen looks to where Cassian gestured and steps toward the corner where he picks up Cassian's Briar pistol. Luthen asks him, "What game is this?" And Cassian shakes his head and says, "No game." Luthen eyes him suspiciously, but Cassian is resolved to whatever fate may lie before him. Solemnly, he says, "Kill me," and then pauses for a moment before he continues, "Or take me in." And Luthen takes him in, takes a long, hard glance at the pistol in his hand. Dropping the pistol to his side, Luthen looks back up at Cassian with a wide smile, and with tears in his eyes, Cassian steals his jaw, and we cut to black.
Crazy.
Okay, do you want to just keep going?
You
want to just keep going?
Keep going.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah,
going.
yeah.
Okay, well, credits roll, and like I said before, the credit sequence does not like shrink down to the corner.
No.
And then we get something else happening here. The sequence opens with a tight shot of a pair of plasma welders working on something. And as the camera pulls back, we can see that it's an insectoid-like droid. In fact, there's quite a fleet of these droids. And as the camera continues to pull back, we can see one of the droids is carrying one of the 6 spoked hubs that we saw being built on Narkina 5.
Droids are really reminiscent of the buzz droids.
Buzz droids, and
Republic
then
era.
also I got vibes of the Bomar, the spider droid on Tatooine. Sorry, the droid fits one of them into a slot, and we see that. Sorry, where am I at here? Camera pulls back, seats an insectoid droid, and there's a fleet of them. The camera continues pulling back. We see one of the droids carrying a 6-spoked hub the men were building on Narkina 5. The droid fits it into a slot where 5 adjoining golden panels all meet. The camera continues pulling back even more, and we can see that the panels are part of a larger array of panels. And drawing back even more, we actually get to see what looks like an exploded view of the Death Star focusing array still under construction. But the camera pulls back even farther, and we actually do get to see the Death Star itself in orbit over Scarif.
And so far, only the tiniest piece of that had gold.
Yeah, the whole. I mean,
they've just begun that sort of.
Yeah. We got another comment here coming in from YouTube. It's Patrick O'Connell. Season 2 is gonna be hype.
Yep.
Is it ever?
Is it ever? Wait.
I mean, the rumor is they've started filming already.
I could go into it tomorrow. I mean, I'm ready.
Oh man,
I'm so ready for this. Okay, so there it is. So when I don't know what episode it was. I'd said, what did I say? Geodesic dome.
Yes,
I wasn't wrong. I was not wrong with the geodesic dome, because that dish. That's a geodesic dome, as we can see by the way that these panels fit together.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. By the way, the larger sections do kind of still resemble the TIE fighter wing, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to, to the casual fan, this isn't going to mean anything. It's not. And but to those of us who are maybe a little more invested, at what point did they move the Death Star from Geonosis to Scarif? And how did they do it with a giant gaping hole in it?
One piece at a time.
I guess so. I mean, the idea that, see, this is the thing. You say, I don't know where Ferrix is. Do we know where Scarif is in relation to Geonosis? I'm sure we do by now. There's got to be.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I don't have it memorized, but
I don't either. I don't either. Do we know?
Yeah,
they're not in,
Patrick O'Connell with another.
Are they in the same sector?
Maybe.
Patrick says, kind of poetic how Cassian built the weapon that kills him. Yes.
I never knew. Never knew.
I do appreciate that. I do appreciate the artistic license that goes with that. I do question though. I mean, fan first, and I'm okay. I can do this, and I can cover my eyes, and I'm totally fine. But I mean, it is contrary to everything that I understand about space travel in Star Wars, that moving a ship, because let's face it, the Death Star is a giant ship.
Mm-hmm.
Still, moving a giant ship through hyperspace with a gaping hole in it does not fit with anything that I know about space travel in Star Wars.
Well, they didn't have to move it there fast. Maybe they didn't take hyperspace.
So you're saying that when we see the partial superstructure in Revenge of the Sith, that's at Geonosis?
So here's the thing. Like, I went back and looked at it. Now, these are the canonical. That is the canonical attribution that it was built over Geonosis. However, in that sequence, it's just space. You don't see where it is. There's no indication visually other than Dooku taking the hollow. I'll have to give this to my master. Fast forward to Rogue One. I went back and I looked at Rogue One because I'm like, maybe they used there's no on-screen text to tell us where it is. And it's the same thing. You just see the dish being laid in.
Right.
We don't
And then
know where
we see it travel. We see it appear out of hyperspace at Scarif.
at Scarif. That's right. So we
Right.
moved it from Geonosis to Scarif to somewhere else to come back. Oh well, Alderaan. Obviously, no, Alderaan is after Scarif,
No, yeah.
and then
First
back.
Jeddah. Jeddah first.
Jeddah. Interesting. So, but it does tie in nicely with Lonnie Young's request for additional stuff in his sector because of the additional construction or whatever shipments that were going into Scarif. So
Right.
we're either going to get a major retcon or somebody's going to get to write a comic book or a novel to tell us how they moved this thing, and or just
Hyperspace tow lanes.
retcon where it was built.
Maybe they don't have to.
In what sense?
Well, this one we're seeing right here is pretty goddamn close to complete, right?
Yep.
The one we see floating over Geonosis is nowhere near.
It's just a ring of
maybe the one over Geonosis is actually the second Death Star.
That
It's
actually
just getting
that's an
under
interesting thought
production.
too, because I'm pretty sure that there were, canonically speaking, there was at least 3 Death Stars in construction at one point. And I'm pretty sure that Death Star 2 was underway by the time that DS1 was complete.
Yeah.
There's a huge size difference. We don't get a sense of the size though of
No.
that ring from Revenge of the Sith. That's an interesting point. Never thought about that.
You also get the idea, though, too, that Galen Erso probably wasn't old enough to be
yeah.
like the lead scientist at so they're building that thing at over Geonosis, ostensibly off the plans that the Geonosans provided
That were conceived of. Yeah, of course.
at some point. And at some point they had to bring in experts, I guess, to redefine things.
Yep.
This certainly is, you could, if we're 5 years before that scene in Rogue One where they actually insert the dish and make it battle ready,
which we are.
It's great. There's 5 tiers of stuff before we get
Oh
there.
yeah. We get one ring, one slice of the tree every year.
Literally, Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
No, absolutely it was.
I mean, now put that into perspective. Cassian Andor or someone like him slaving away every day for 5 years.
Years
to put, and now we're building 3.
Or it took that dome, the dome, or not the dome, the sphere itself. That's 14 years worth of construction right there that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And we're almost there.
5 more to go.
We
5 more to go.
Redouble our efforts.
Wow. So there we go. Andor season 1. It was a hit. It was a hit for me. Total hit.
Crazy
Slow build,
good.
but holy payoff.
Anything you guys want to touch on, like thoughts about the series in general overall? I think if you've watched our show, if you've listened to our show, then you know sort of the highs and lows. We tend to hit on them sort of in the moment. I will still say this: the biggest detractor of the entire series is how loose-lipped they were at the embassy residence. I feel like that was like, I know it serves the story, but it's an awful choice.
Well, especially when she knows that like they're swapping out her driver.
No,
And
exactly.
they're changing people around her.
Exactly. So, but really, that is my biggest complaint. Outside of that, didn't have a problem with space AK-47s. In fact, I thought that is so thematically correct with how Star Wars has presented weapons. No problem with that.
I love the non-She-Hulk levels of CGI in it that were used. I loved it. I mean, it was beautiful. That I said that to Lauren a lot. The fact that they were doing theater quality CGI when necessary,
feature film quality. Yes,
right. Like the Aldani, the ship stuff.
Last week's episode
with the TIE fighter fight, and even the firefight this weekend, practical effects mixed with some classy CG. We got another comment.
We've got another. This is a great one, actually. This is a question. Patrick says, do you think we will get a cameo from the Ghost crew in season 2?
I think Tony Gilroy's pretty like, did you read the article? I don't know if Patrick read it, but I certainly read it. You guys might have come across it, where Tony Gilroy said, I had said no fan service Easter eggs, And everything that you saw in
blamed it on
Luthion's
the art
shop was the
department.
art department.
Blamed it on the art
I
department.
had literally had no connection or knowledge. So if so, it might be the wardrobe department dresses someone up like Ezra Bridger and sends them walking through the background. But I don't think we're going to take away from this story because I think that these both stories are so important. I don't think we're going to take away.
By the time
from
we get
either
to
one.
Rogue One,
Like,
in 5 years from now, Harrison Dula is a general in the Alliance.
knowing that we're getting like a Rebel season 5
right, coming out of Ahsoka. Right.
I mean, you might get one of those characters in it. I would say if anybody makes an appearance, it's Chopper, and again, it's probably a background thing.
Chopper is the easiest to do because the
Right.
practical, that droid is already built. He was in Rogue
Yeah.
One. We've already got Patrick, I don't know if you noticed this, but the VCX 100, the freighter makes an appearance in Andor. It's in the used ship lot where the ugly, that Cassian with the Y-wing engines, it's there.
Right.
Not saying that that's the ghost, but it is a VCX 100. So the connective tissue is already there.
Right.
We do see Chopper in Rogue One. We have the audio cue, General Syndulla, whatever, in Rogue One. Could we see them? Sure.
I think this thing is so strong an entity already. It's highly possible, but I don't think you're going to see a Tarkin or a Leia in the next season. I think that would take away from what we're building here, which is like a crazy pedestal to how good Star Wars can be when we step away from those things.
We take for
and
granted
let it stand on its own.
We take it for granted that Bail Organa is already intrinsically linked to the rebellion by the time we get to Rogue One. So I think that's an easy one to weave in and out. I'd be more interested to see what happened, where Jan Dodonna. I'd like to see him
things
get
of that
involved.
nature. For sure.
Yeah. Or like
I'd like
you
to
said
see a
last
live
week,
action, a young Wedge, a young Biggs and Bix.
You know what? I
remember when we thought that he was saying Biggs.
We had
way back in the trailer. You said Biggs. Come on, who's Bix?
Lieutenant died at Aldani. Lieutenant Gorn.
Oh, yes.
I thought, had they have gotten away with it, he was going on the ship and leaving with them. You had said last week, Hank, we have no idea the backstories for guys like General Riken and Crix Madine. How about if anything, let's see Crix Madine's defection. That would be that would be cool.
I would love to see some more
that plays
of that
right
stuff.
into. We may get that. Like we did speculate that maybe there was going to be a flip in season 1, and that didn't happen.
Well, we found out the embedded Lonnie.
Right, but I mean, he was already
like every other character turned out to be embedded in something, which was kind of cool.
That's true.
The
that is so
project,
true.
Right?
Yeah.
And they delivered enough gut punches this season. I could easily see them bringing back Andy Serkis for season 2, only to take him away.
I mean, Tony Gilroy addressed that. I
wanted him to live.
I know.
Tony Gilroy addressed that in an interview. I don't know if you guys saw that one though.
That's not one that I am familiar with.
I did see an interview with.
He's like, I like to think that he's alive somewhere. He's like, I'm pretty sure he's dead, but I'd like to think that there's some place where he got out somehow.
Because Andy Serkis, he gave an interview as well, saying, they haven't contacted me about anything for season 2, but I would love to come back.
Oh, that's good to be open about that.
Or directing.
What's interesting, that would be cool too, to have him as a director. Speaking of directors, no returning director for season 2.
No.
A whole new cadre of directors.
Yeah,
interesting.
And
to see,
still the same format where we're doing like
multi-episode
arcs, or
I like that.
Yeah, with a significant time jump. I'm led to believe between all of them.
I believe the last thing I heard was season 2 is going to pick up about 1 year after the close of this season.
Right, and drop us off about
5 days.
5 days before the events of Rogue One.
So we got 5 years to cover and only 12 episodes to do it.
Is it going to be another 12 episode season?
I believe that's what I had heard. But
that's an interesting question. Cable series, particularly at the HBO, Netflix, the 10 episode season has become sort of the norm. How do we feel about a 12 episode?
Okay, so I mean,
Used to be like
we grew up with the 24
with the
episode
24,
seasons.
yeah,
your
24,
pilots
25,
wouldn't kill me.
26.
12 or
That wouldn't kill
13,
me.
and then
Yeah.
That would not kill me. I go back and I watch Lost, and I go, wow, there's 158 episodes to watch. That it wouldn't kill me, but I understand that your quality is gonna, drop
you
at
gotta
that
spread
point,
that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if you're gonna give me a $50 million TV show and spread that out over 12 episodes and make it the greatest thing I've ever seen, I kind of rather that than spread it out over 2-3 seasons,
Yeah.
the same budget, and I'm getting just some horse crap.
So Andor is the most expensive of the Star Wars television series yet.
Yeah.
We got the production value, as you say, like in some points we got feature film quality production
Cinematic
values.
visuals.
There, to me, again, I mean the She-Hulk joke is so on point. There was no, like I said, there was no significant drop in the writing quality. There was no drop in the visual quality either.
No.
Money well spent,
I really think Andor is the unsung hero of the three big studios that tried to put out prequel projects. I'm not taking anything away from Game of Thrones.
No.
I'm certainly not taking anything away from Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
This destroyed that in terms of just the way that you could do a prequel and care about characters that you already know what the hell is going to happen to them. There's no good reason to care a damn
absolutely
bit about Cassian Andor, and you hang on everything.
You mean the guy that dies at the end of Rogue? Everybody dies in Rogue One. What do I need to see with him before?
But no, it's just the cinematography, the quality, the acting, everything about it is
more than, and they're in right there, Hank. The acting, that more than anything else. Like we mentioned before about how you don't have any, that Bond will be back. It's Bond will return. We know that Cassian dies, but you can't tell me for a moment that you were like, oh, I know that he makes it to Rogue One, but in my mind, there's a part of me going Luthen could pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I mean, if Marva's speech hadn't happened, if we didn't witness the riot and all the things that led up to this exact moment, he came here to kill him and he probably would have went through with it. And I felt the emotional weight of what they were trying to present.
Yeah.
It's really true that the journey is more than the destination.
Getting there, yeah.
That's what we're seeing evidence of.
And
I know about halfway through, I was like, man, this is so good.
Yeah.
I don't want to like this as much as I like The Mandalorian. I said that to Lauren. I was like, I don't want to like this as much as I'm liking the Obi-Wan show.
Lauren, as your partner in crime, who is your can we call, is she an open Star Wars freak, or is she still okay?
Hell yeah.
As your ride or die, where does it sit with her as a woman? As she said,
she really likes them all.
Sure.
Like certain things about it, like the droid.
Okay.
Just the way that they portray the emotion. We talked about that a lot, like how we've never done anything but humanize the droids in Star Wars, but we've taken this to the nth level now.
Like I said, yes, it turns out it wasn't fluid between his lenses, but the metaphor was still there. Did you ever think you would see a Star Wars droid cry? I mean, that's
exactly. And like I say, I was sort of in the camp where they were more like highly intelligent pets, and now I'm in the camp where they're they're another species of being. No, they're another species of being. They're
emotionally complex sentient beings.
Right, and then you add in that the L3's sort of slave speech at Castle, and you build this picture and what is the Gatra? There's a droid Gatra that we don't know anything about out there.
That's right.
That we sort of touched on in the Mando stuff. I mean, I can't. It's a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
It absolutely is.
I really hope that by putting this on network, it makes people want to actually check the rest of the thing out, because it's brilliant stuff.
I would hate to think that this is nothing more than just the drive to the next slate of films to put Star Wars back into the wider audience,
to keep it relevant.
Yeah, right.
I know Ryan Johnson does Ryan Johnston does an interview every 5 minutes to talk about the fact that he's still doing a trilogy. But the last thing I read about him was he'd be like, I'd be fine with doing TV. Like, I don't know if he's telling somebody, like, I could do TV. I'll be fine with it.
Yeah, really.
But I mean, I'm super happy with where we're going. It looks like The Acolyte is going to be our first movie, I guess, since Rogue Squadron has been sort of kiboshed.
Permanently, yeah, it's off the calendar completely. So we have no idea where that's at.
It looks very much like the Acolyte may be the next film we get.
Is it a film? I thought it was going to be I thought it was going to be
a
series. I could be wrong. Either way, before we get to the Acolyte, though, we've got a lot of stuff happening in the next couple of months. So
Bad Batch season 2.
We are about to have some serious overlap here because I know. We've already set the tone with our coverage of both The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch, both of which are coming back for new seasons here shortly.
Ahsoka is on the horizon.
They will overlap, so that's going to be a busy production schedule for us. But this being sort of the organic wrap to Andor, I don't know if we're going to do a wrap show on that or not,
or maybe a recap.
You know what? Maybe that's something. If you guys want to do a wrap show, would love to. If you just drop a comment, maybe in the stream on this, if you're catching in the replay, and let us know if you want to do a wrap live stream, completely unscripted. We won't put any notes together for it. We'll just take your comments and thoughts, and you guys we can have a nice big conversation as a fan community.
Yeah. What did you like? What do you want to see going forward?
Sure. I mean, we'll say it is now Sunday, November 27th. So next Sunday, December, or do you get a calendar there, Andy?
4th, I think.
December 4th at our usual time slot. If you guys want to do a wrap live stream, we will do another episode of FANdor. It'll be the basically ask us anything and we will talk about it, about Andor. If there's not enough interest for that, we can now turn our attention back and catch up on Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi.
Which we have a game plan for going forward. So that will be the next produced live stream coming will be Tales of the Jedi.
We also got to do that live stream. Just throwing this out there for Hank. Would Lauren be interested in coming on and talking about it from her perspective?
As a guest, yeah, sure.
Especially considering like the Dedra stuff, where we started out, she was already facing sexism in the workplace.
Yeah.
And she rises up through the ranks to get demonized and then just kind of shit on when her further up decides, I'm in control of these. This is what the Emperor needs to get the taste out of his mouth, and I did it.
And the sickness is that to become undemonized, you become the demon.
Right. Yeah.
She's a fan of the show too, and she couldn't be outdone by our good friend at the beginning of the show. So she gave us a fan gift.
No way! That's awesome.
So we'll plant them at the same time. And
oh my gosh! So we're gonna grow goo, and now what do we do? Is that Wicket? Is that Wicket?
It is Wicket. It is Wicket. W. Warwick.
Wow. So we're gonna pick it. There's no pithy way to make that sound funny.
Chia Wicket.
Chia Wicket and Chia Grogu dueling Chias here at Fandom Power.
That's it.
Thank you to everyone.
Send us your crab. We love it. We love it.
Thanks to everybody who's been along with us for this. This one has been definitely the longest review series that we've done. Had a great time on this one. Super, super happy with the show. Super proud of the work that these two guys have put into the show, especially while I was away on vacation. So thank you very much for keeping the show rolling. We will be back 1 week from today, talking about something. Might be Tales of the Jedi. Could be a big old live stream with a bunch of you. Just let us know in the comments or hit us up on our socials. Really, guys. Oh, and do check out the 100 subscriber giveaway video where we are giving away an action figure, possibly two. This action figure, this one right here, is already on the block. It will be drawn for sometime after the 31st of December. remember, we get 200 subscribers. That General Grievous will also be up for grabs. And Andy, you told me that if we could get to 300,
I've got something to throw up as well.
So, guys,
Oh.
tell your friends about the show. Tell them how much you love us, and show a little bit of love, and we will do the same. And we will offer up another thing.
Unlock that third tier.
Another thing.
Nice.
Now we're what are we? Fandom Plus,
Maybe.
or Fandom Pulse, like Hasbro.
Only fandom.
Nice.
Unlock the
Only
really
fandom.
only fan.
That's hilarious.
Okay, we better end this before we go too far.
To see more of Hank, insert quarter now.
Okay,
There's
that's
only one
enough.
person watching.
All right, and it's somebody that loves us. I know that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, well, listen. Much love to all of you. Until we meet again in a week from now, for Fan and Power, my name is Wes.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Hank.
And we'll catch you on the next one, guys. So bye for now.
Power doesn't panic.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to, I don't even know what to do. I'm so flustered.
for it.
Oh, there it is.